Welcome to a special live edition here on Real America's Voice. I'm Steve Brewer on a Sunday. It's June 25th. Hey, thank you for being here. Live coverage, because coming up in just a little bit, former President Donald Trump will be appearing on stage in Oakland County, Michigan. That's suburban Detroit, for those of you that don't know. He'll be addressing the Lincoln Day dinner there, and the Republicans tonight will be honoring the former president as the man of the decade for the party. Of course, we expect Mr. Trump to touch on many hot-button topics, including his recent indictments pertaining to his possession of classified documents, which, of course, he refers to as part of an ongoing witch hunt. Trump, as you know, was charged with 37 counts for having classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago home. Not sure that's ever going to go anywhere. I also expect we'll hear the president touch on the deal Hunter Biden got from the DOJ, and it was a deal, regarding tax evasion on $3 million he earned, but never paid a penny in tax. Plus, the felony gun charges are going to let go, apparently. Just let it vanish. I'd also expect comments from the president on the ongoing border crisis, the economy and the problems there, the coming recession, and America's energy policy, and how reckless it is with Joe Biden in the White House. So we're going to be hearing from a series of speakers tonight before the president takes the stage as well. I hear there's a lot of big names in the House, and despite all the challenges that Donald Trump has been faced with in recent days and weeks, he is still by far leading the field by a wide margin. Currently far and away the front runner and the most likely GOP nominee for the 2024 Republican ticket. Rav's David Zier is on hand tonight in Oakland County, Michigan. He is standing by with a preview of the night ahead. David, good to see you here tonight. Obviously, it's going to be a packed house. It sounds busy. What do you know?
Well, there's about 2,000 people here. They're coming in as, it's a fundraiser, Lincoln Day dinner, right? It's a tradition among the Republican Party for many years. And in Oakland County, the GOP is hosting Donald Trump. There's a vast array of kind of an all-star list here. You know, Giuliani's coming in, Christina Caramo, the state GOP leader. I heard Kash Patel might be present. We have Ted Nugent, Congresswoman Lisa McClain, Congressman John James, and Tommy Tuberville, legendary Auburn coach, right? And the senator from Alabama, senior senator. So it should be an interesting evening of speakers. There's some excitement in the air because Trump is coming out of D.C. He really dominated the Faith and Freedom Coalition, Road to Majority 2023. Between him and Carrie Lake and maybe Vivek and a few other speakers, they kind of brought down the House. I don't know if the other candidates, scored any points. Trump's ahead about 50 points on top of everybody besides DeSantis. It's a very wide margin. Today, NBC had a poll showing him 29 points ahead of DeSantis, and he's averaged about 30% or 30 points over the Real Clear aggregate of polls over the last week. Trump over DeSantis, plus 30. So Trump is riding on a little bit of momentum here. I think he's trying to carry it forward, and we know next week he starts rally season up again in South Carolina, and Pickens will be there, and we'll have more for you.
All right, David, greatly appreciate that. We'll be back to David in just a moment here. Of course, Donald Trump won Michigan. It's a big state for him. He won it in 2016, one of the three states that, was a big surprise to a lot of folks around the country. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania falling into Donald Trump's category and pushing him to the presidency in 2016. Of course, that was a big turning point for the GOP and for the country. And then, of course, the 2020 election. Those three states went back into the Democrat column, but a lot of controversies to how they got there and what really happened behind the scenes in Michigan and other places to how the election went. So obviously, Michigan is something that's very important to the former president. That's why he's here in Oakland County, again, to be honored as the Republican Man of the Year. Hoping to repeat that battleground success that he had back in 2016. This is a big night for the president. And like David said, he's coming off this Faith and Freedom get-together. Now, we're going to have some comments from the former president from that event coming up here in just a few minutes. But I think that one of the things he's going to talk about a fair amount are the whistleblowers in the Hunter Biden case. The latest indicate that Hunter Biden didn't pay taxes on $8.3 million. A new revelation. It seems that there's a new revelation with Hunter Biden each and every day here. And it's beginning to drag down Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden's approval numbers are the lowest of any modern-day president, lower by far than certainly Donald Trump or Jimmy Carter or anybody else who was unpopular at this point in the presidency. Joe Biden doing worse. And it's ironic to me, as I sit here in Michigan, that the governor of this state is being talked about in the Atlantic and other places as a possible replacement to Joe Biden. So that woman from Michigan, as Donald Trump referred to her back famously some months and years ago, could end up being his opponent in the general election in 2024. We'll have to keep an eye on that and see if that comes together. Now, we're going to take a pause here just for a minute to let you know that this event is being brought to you by Birch Gold. With Biden in the Oval Office, we've seen inflation surge and deficit spending and the national debt have hit record highs. It's directly because of these challenges that President Trump recently warned, quote, "Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard," which will be our greatest defeat, frankly, in 200 years. Now, in a direct affront to the dollar status as global reserve currency, the BRICS group of nations, led by China and Russia, are rumored to be just 2 months away from launching their own currency. With the dollar seemingly on its last legs, it's more important than ever to take a hard look at moving some of your savings into gold. And you can own gold in a tax-sheltered retirement account with the help of Birch Gold. That's right, Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. And the best part, you don't pay a penny out of pocket, not one. To get started, Birch Gold is giving away a free information kit on gold. Just text the word America to 989898. That's America to 989898. Think about this. When currencies fail, gold is a safe haven. How much more time does the dollar have, especially with BRICS looming ominously overhead? Protect your savings with gold now. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied customers. Again, text America to the number 989898. Get your free information kit on gold. That's America, 989898. We'll take a break here on this special coverage. Donald Trump live, Oakland County, Michigan at the Lincoln Day dinner. We'll continue in a moment. Now we're waiting for Donald Trump to take the stage at the Oakland County Lincoln Day dinner, Oakland County, Michigan. It's suburban Detroit. We'll get to that in a minute. David Ziner is live on the ground there. But the continuing coverage here on Real America's Voice of the election season really starting to heat up. We've been having live events, live coverage for the past many days, and it's going to intensify. I can tell you that over the next weeks and months as we head toward the conventions in Milwaukee for the Republicans and Chicago for the Democrats, all coming up in the summer of 2024, and you should expect a lot of great coverage here in Real America's Voice. For example, yesterday, David Bratt from Liberty University and a former member of Congress from Virginia spoke with David Zier. Here's that conversation.
One of the favorite people I see on the ground around the country at different events that Rav covers, Real America's Voice News, is the one and only David Bratt. He is the Vice Provost for Engagement and PR at Liberty University. What's going on?
Thanks for having me on, brother. Everything.
Everything's going on, right?
At Liberty, we got some good news. The world, the news we'll get to is
well,
not
I heard
so,
Liberty has a big class of like 28,000 now. Pretty extraordinary.
Oh, on campus, we have 16,000. Total across the country, 130,000.
Wow.
Total. So, and then
that's an army.
20,000 K to 12 on top of that.
Well, it's nice to see because I think Liberty University are raising fine young people, which I say, and just going to the events like CPAC and stuff, anyone who says they go to Liberty University is a class act.
Yeah. No, we appreciate it. We haven't given up on just a classical liberal arts education, right? Started with the Greeks, and you had the quadrivium and the trivium in the pursuit of truth.
A free and open expression of ideas or exchange of ideas, right?
No coercion, no pronoun coercion, all this crazy stuff.
So I just interviewed a great guy, James Fishback, who was a former debate coach, and he's exposing these debates in these high schools and these kids. They are restricted from using the word illegal alien. The judges are announcing that bias up front if they bring up material they don't agree with. Isn't it supposed to be about debate? They cancel the kids. They kick them out of the debate.
Yeah, and that is not the exception. That's the rule across the country now. And parents are waking up. You see the Moms for Liberty.
We just had Moms for Liberty on.
They're phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely there's a fight going on. So let's talk about what's going on in the economy. I know you're big in the economic realm and business. I'm in business in New York. I see the effects in the commercial market. Now, you were saying the commercial credit crunch, which I thought was here.
Yeah, I did too.
With commercial loans now 56%, I think in the first or second quarter this year. But you're saying it's been punted down the road a little.
Yeah, well, the Fed saw that, and then Silicon Bank and about 3 or 4 others cratered, and that got them nervous about systematic, going up into the too big to fails.
Right.
And so that brought back, heartache from 07, 08. And so the Fed the next day printed $500 billion.
They turned on the printer.
$500 billion, bailed out of that. Then just this, a couple weeks ago, the federal government added another $4 trillion in government spending. So the Fed balance sheet's $9 trillion. The government budget now is regularly going to be $7 trillion. When I was in Congress, it was $5 trillion. So $2 trillion extra. That was enough to send checks to the whole country during COVID when we shut down the whole economy. So that's how much we're talking about. Enough to keep the country afloat, and now it's permanent.
It's very serious stuff. But Matt Drudge used to say a billion or a trillion ain't what it used to be. So what's the big deal? So talk about China policy.
Yeah. Well, I came across probably the most important statistic I've overlooked. And this is from the Federal Reserve Bank, right? You can go out to their database called FRED. China's capital stock, and that's the variable most responsible for economic growth, the amount of capital you have in your economy. The capital stock of China is now 99 trillion. The U.S. is way below at 70 trillion. And so when you talk about the 50 trillion in debt we have, the old free market guys would say we're going to grow our way out of it. They'd be optimistic. That never happened.
Do we have enough assets to even cover that number?
No, not even close. And the economic growth is 1% now, and that's because productivity, and the expert on that's at Northwestern University, our productivity used to be 4 or 5% back in the 40 years ago. It's a straight line down now to 1% productivity growth. So I wish I had better news to share, but the young generation better get on it, right? They better start protesting on behalf of their economy and Social Security and Medicare
and even
and debt.
The new unemployment claims are up, almost at recession levels. But the real number, I think, for the labor market is everybody's working 2 and 3 jobs. So that affects the number too, right? Because I talk to Uber drivers around the country traveling with the network, and they're all like, I'm an accountant in the day. Or I'm like, well, that's a reputable job. He's like, I can't make it.
Right. And that skews all the Fed statistics. There's 2 surveys, right? There's the establishment survey and the family survey. And the one, if you got 3 jobs, they count it as 3 jobs, even if it's an hour a week.
Yeah, and a lot of these people are like working at Domino's during the day and then driving the Uber at night. They have they have full-time jobs, you know.
Yeah.
All right. What about Blinken's visit to China? Was anything accomplished? Did he Did he hold their feet to the fire?
No, they're kowtowing, you know. And then now we have the breaking news down in Cuba. A Russian base is now a Chinese base at a minimum for intelligence. And it takes about a day for them to put kinetic pieces in place these days. And so this is going to trigger a massive reaction, right? The Monroe Doctrine, you don't get to be in our hemisphere. Yeah.
Well, you know, the Cubans were building a runway in Grenada so they can get arms to Nicaragua with Soviet funding, and Reagan stepped in. But this administration won't do that, right?
No. And one of the most stunning things I heard over the past few weeks, the people of Taiwan now are looking at Ukraine. And the United States told the people of Ukraine, we have your back. Well, the people of Ukraine are now dead. Yep. It's 10-1 deaths, Russian versus Ukraine, right? And that's not being reported. But the upshot of that is not only have we morally turned our back on friends who we promised, but now the Taiwanese people are saying, the U.S. also says they have our back. I'm not sure if we believe it anymore, and they got a CCP candidate running for president in Taiwan.
I was going to say, I hear stuff like that the leadership in Taiwan is in bed with the Chi-Com, and they're actually buying drones that are Chinese-made.
More and more, right?
Yeah.
And then to the point that we may not even have a chance to defend them. They may leave us.
Right. Well, all these things are a hotbed of activities here. And this race, the Faith and Freedom Coalition, Road to Majority 2024 here. What do you want to see out of the candidates? I guess it's everybody needs to catch up to Trump time, right?
Yeah. Well, at a Faith and Freedom, I'd like to see them all really articulate the faith a little bit better.
Yeah.
You heard Modi yesterday in his speech to Congress, and he was weaving in poetry and some optimistic themes about the light, and he's credible. He believes it. Which of our candidates can give that sense of hope?
You know what? In my opinion, not to throw my opinion all the time, throw it around, but you know, I think it's Trump, Vivek, DeSantis are the three that have that positive message and how we can take our country back, right?
Yeah. No, that's right. And you know, Trump came out yesterday and said, you know, let me at this the Taiwan situation. Let me at the Cuba situation. And
forget about it. I
like hearing that
he would have been on it like
stance,
instantly, and he would have been as tough as nails. And that's the leadership void in the world. We'd be looking at a much situation probably with China,
I really do.
Ukraine,
I think so.
with Cuba, everything, right?
Yeah.
All right, give our audience a last word. What's going to happen in the next year and a half?
Boy, I hate to tell you, it's going to be a lost decade on the economy and geopolitics. On the politics, on the race itself, I think it's fairly clear what's going to happen. There's a huge populist resurgence with RFK on the Dem side, and then Trump and DeSantis, and we'll see where Vivek lands, but whoever grabs that middle-class worker wins. And so we'll see what the language ends up looking like.
Yeah, and I also think I'm in business in New York and in construction and commercial real estate. I think we're heading for a really tough time, and it hasn't really hit yet, right?
Yeah, that's right. The Fed, when they do monetary policy, there's a year and a half lag.
Right.
They started the real money pushing back in March of 22.
Yeah.
So we're about a year and a half in, so now is when it really kicks in.
I know.
And you're right.
The phones are not ringing in the commercial real estate offices in New York, that's for sure.
They're not gonna.
All right, David Bratt, he's the Vice Provost for Engagement and PR at the Great Liberty University, and we'll see you around here at Faith and Freedom.
Thank you, Dave. God bless you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dave, as always.
Thank you.
All right, Dave Bratt and David Zier there. This is part of the Faith and Freedom Coalition coverage we had here. Now listen, all sorts of Republican candidates made their way to D.C. for the Faith and Freedom Coalition 2023. You had people like Chris Christie and Mike Pence and Tim Scott and others, Vivek Ramaswamy and some others who made the stage. But, of course, Ron DeSantis has been running in second place for a while, even prior to his announcement for president. The numbers have stayed relatively static for quite some time. Donald Trump, the clear leader, but Ron DeSantis took the stage at the Faith and Freedom Coalition. We decided we were going to share with you a good part of his comments from that event while we wait for President Donald Trump to take the stage at the Oakland County Lincoln Day dinner in Oakland County, Michigan. Here's the governor from Florida.
Thank you so much. God bless you all. Are you ready to work together so that we can send Joe Biden back to his basement in Delaware where he belongs? I'm so happy to be here. We see the problems in this country. You see the economy where you pay more for daily necessities like groceries. Meanwhile, the people in this town, with all the spending, the debt, and the printing that's been done, they're living high on the hog. You see a southern border that's wide open. You see illegal aliens pouring in and massive amounts of deadly narcotics coming in. You see cities that have been overrun with crime, places that have been hollowed out like San Francisco. And we see a federal government whose agencies have been weaponized against their fellow Americans, including people of faith. And underlying all that is the fact that the left is lighting the fire of a cultural revolution all across this land. The fire smolders in our schools, it smolders in corporate boardrooms, it smolders in the halls of government. We are told that we must accept that men can get pregnant. We are told to celebrate a swimmer who swam for 3 years on the men's team and then switches to the women's team and somehow is named the women's champion. We are told to sit idly by as they try to rewrite and distort our history and demean the founders of this nation. We have had to watch as a football coach had to go all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court just to get his job back for the, quote, crime of saying prayers at the midfield after football games. And of course, we see professional sports teams openly elevating groups who overtly demean people of faith. Let's just be very clear about this. We did not start this fire. But as President of the United States, I will lead the effort to extinguish the fire of cultural Marxism once and for all across this country. We will restore sanity to this nation. We will return normalcy to our communities, and we will reinstate integrity across institutions. This is a time for clarity. This is a time to stand for truth. This is a time to proudly put on the full armor of God. Now, what's called for right now is leadership. And leadership means that you know what's the right thing to do. You have your sights fixated on what true north is. You don't let people divert you off course, the media, the polls, none of that. You follow through and you get things done. And I'm happy to say that's exactly what we've done in Florida. That's exactly what we will do as president. When the world went mad during COVID, when common sense suddenly became an uncommon virtue, the state of Florida stood as a citadel of freedom and a refuge of sanity for citizens all across this country. We refuse to let our state descend into some type of Faucian dystopia where people's freedoms were curtailed and their livelihoods were destroyed. No, we protected the right of people to worship in church. We protected people's freedom, their ability to work, businesses to operate, and made sure our kids could be in school every single day in person. In short, we chose freedom over Fauciism, and we are better off for having done so. We also lead in standing up for the protection of our children. And it's sad to say, but in the cultural moment we find ourselves in, our children are being targeted for indoctrination in schools and programming, everything under the sun. In the state of Florida, when we saw that happening, when people wanted to put gender ideology in the schools, we drew a line in the sand and said, no, not on our watch. We are going to stand with the rights of parents. It is inappropriate for a teacher to tell a second grader that they may have been born in the wrong body or that their gender is a choice. And so we made sure to enact that in the law. Now, There are a lot of people in Florida that love that we did that. The parents loved it, regardless of party, because they want to focus school on the basics. They don't want schools to be tools of indoctrination. The left didn't like what we did. The media didn't like what we did. And there happened to be a company you may have heard of in Central Florida that didn't like what we did, named Disney. And people said, you know, they're so powerful when they lean in on an issue in Florida, they always get their way. There's no way that the governor is going to be able to withstand that. And so this parents' rights bill is going to end up crashing and burning. And, you know, I know that they ran things in Florida for a long time, but all I can say is we run the state of Florida. We don't subcontract out to woke corporations in Burbank, California. So here we stand. And we signed the legislation. And we also ensured that if they're getting legacy benefits where they had their own government, that was in the 60s, I didn't do that, they were treated better than any person or company in the entire state of Florida, and yet they were signing up for the sexualization of children. Not just with this bill, but they've admitted it in their own programming. And so as a father of three, that's not something that sits well with me. So we had to make the decision to say, you know, we are not going to put you on a pedestal in this state. And so we ended Disney's self-governing status in the state of Florida. And I know, and the sad thing is, no, I know, the sad thing is a lot of these Republicans are siding with Disney and they're attacking me. And here's what I will say. We oppose the sexualization of children. We will do battle with anybody who seeks to rob our children of their innocence. And on those principles, there will be no compromise. We will fight the woke corporations. And what it all comes down to at the end of the day is we believe that parents have the right to direct the education and upbringing of their children. And we've enacted legislation to that effect. We've even empowered parents with the ability to know what curriculum is being used in their kids' school and to blow the whistle when things are inappropriate. And here's what they found. Unfortunately, and I think Florida is probably way better than a lot of other states, but even in Florida, you know, they have found pornography in the schools. So the media will say if you get the pornography out, that's somehow a book ban, which is a total hoax. People can buy, adults can buy books, but you have to choose what's appropriate to be in a school, what's appropriate for a classroom. You're making a decision, somebody's trying to make a decision to use tax dollars to put pornographic materials, and that's wrong. We did an event to highlight this. We called it Exposing the Book Ban Hoax, but before I talked, before the parents came up, we just played on the video screen exactly what the parents had objected to. The news stations covering our press conference had to cut their feed because they said it was too graphic to air. Well, if it's too graphic for the 6 o'clock news, how is it okay for a 10-year-old school child? And I know we see debates right now about the ability of women to compete fairly in sports, and people like Riley Gaines are standing up for doing what's right, and I appreciate all that. But in Florida, we took care of this years ago. We signed legislation that says every girl, every women athlete in the state of Florida has the right to compete with fairness and with integrity in their sports. And as the father of two daughters, I want my daughters to be able to participate with fairness and integrity. And yes, when you have someone swim on the men's team for 3 years and switch to the women's team and somehow win the championship, that took a championship away from a woman swimmer. That is taking opportunities away from girls. No question about that. But even more than that, when the NCAA crowns that swimmer the women's champion, they're not only taking away opportunities for other women athletes, They are asking us to be complicit in a fraud, and that I refuse to do. We have also taken action to prohibit puberty blockers and gender surgeries in the state of Florida for minors. It is mutilation. It is wrong, and it has no place in a free society. We're proud that we've been able to and will continue to stand for religious liberty. And yes, we had to do that during COVID when you had local governments trying to crack down on people that wanted to attend church. We filed an executive order saying churches are essential activity and have a right to operate. We've also taken action to ensure that athletes have the right and sports teams have a right to say prayers before games, and also to have a mandatory moment of silence in our schools so that
All right, some examples of the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, speaking of the Faith and Freedom Coalition, happened over the past couple of days in D.C. We've got some other people we're going to hear from, including Tim Scott, Vivek Ramaswamy, Josh Hawley, the outspoken senator from Missouri, took the stage as well. We've got a lot more for you here, straight on Real America's Voice. But still to come, the main event for today, former President Donald Trump attending the Lincoln Day dinner, Oakland County, Michigan, where he'll be delivering the keynote speech and accepting an award as the Man of the Decade for the Republican Party. Don't go anywhere. Yes, it's been a very busy weekend at Real America's Voice. The Faith and Freedom Coalition was in D.C., and of course, we're in Oakland County, Michigan now. David Zier standing by. We'll get back to David in a few minutes. But the Faith and Freedom Coalition, if you missed the live coverage, interesting people out there. The next guy we're going to hear from here, Vivek Ramaswamy. Interesting guy. Probably not going to get the nomination, fair to say. But an interesting guy who's made some interesting points, and one of those being that if Donald Trump were still facing any legal challenges, and he were elected president, Vivek that is, that he would pardon the former president immediately. That got him some brownie points with the Trump faithful, that's for sure. But he's a very smart guy. I think we can agree on that. And here are some of his comments from the Faith and Freedom Coalition from yesterday. Listen.
Thank you. It's good to see you all. Good to see you. It's good to be back. I've seen many of you in Iowa. It's good to be here in D.C. I'm going to kick this off by taking you back to a moment in 1993, when I was in second grade in Southwest Ohio, and I heard Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech for the first time. That was the speech where he said, I hope my 4 children grow up in a country where they are judged not on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character. I'll tell you something. That dream stuck with me. It meant something to me because it was the dream that allowed me to go in a single generation from being the kid of Indian immigrants who came to this country with almost no money to becoming the founder of a multi-billion-dollar company that I led as CEO. We developed some medicines. One is a life-saving therapy in kids. Another one is an approved drug for prostate cancer. But I stepped down from my job as a CEO to focus on a different kind of cancer, not a biological cancer, but a cultural cancer that threatened to kill that dream that Martin Luther King had 60 years ago. A cancer that threatened to kill the dream that allowed me to achieve everything I have in my life. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm speaking to you this morning as a member of my generation. I'm the first millennial ever to run for US president as a Republican. I appreciate that. And I'll tell you something about us. I think it's true of all of us. It's definitely true of us millennials. We are hungry for a cause. We are hungry for purpose and meaning and identity at a time in our national history when the things that used to fill that hunger, faith, patriotism, hard work, family, these things have disappeared. And that leaves a moral vacuum in its wake. And when you have a black hole that runs that deep, that is when the poison fills the void. Wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, COVIDism, globalism, depression, anxiety, drug usage, suicide. It almost doesn't matter what the poison is. These are symptoms of a deeper void, symptoms of a vacuum of purpose and meaning in our country. And our job in the conservative movement today is to rise up, to level up, to say that we're done playing whack-a-mole. We're not just running from something, we are running to something, to our vision of what it actually means to be an American today. We're lost in the desert. We are today. I joke around, we're like a bunch of blind bats, actually, flying around in some dark cave trying to figure out where we are. You know how a bat figures out where it is? Doesn't have eyes, can't see, sends sonar signals, bounces off the wall, it comes back and says, this is where I am. We do the same thing. I send out a signal, it bounces off something that is true, something that is fixed, my family, the mother and father who brought me into this world, the children who I brought into this world. That is true. That is real. That bounces back. That tells me this is where I am. Send out a signal. It bounces off of my faith in God. That faith is real. It is true. That bounces back. It tells me this is where I am. Send out a signal. It bounces off my belief in this country, that I'm a citizen of the United States of America, not some nebulous global citizen somewhere. That is true. That is real. That bounces back. It tells me this is where I am. I work hard. I create something in the world. That is true. That is real. That bounces back and tells me this is where I am. What happens when those things disappear? We send out these signals, and then nothing comes back. That's where we are today. We are lost in that wilderness. It is when the Israelites escape from the Pharaoh that they're lost in the desert. What did they say? They say, we want to go back and bend the knee to the Pharaoh. You have a hole the size of God in your heart. If God does not fill it, something else will instead. The same can be said of belief in a nation. This is our moment as a movement to rise up to the occasion and say, this is what we actually stand for. This is what it means to be an American. To me, what does it mean to be an American? It means we believe in the ideals that set this nation into motion 250 years ago. Ideals like meritocracy and the pursuit of excellence, that you do get ahead in this country, not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. That is why I expect the Supreme Court in the coming days to end affirmative action in college admissions. And as the next president, I will end it in every sphere of our lives. That is what it means to be an American. What does it mean to be an American? It means we believe in the rule of law. That if you're like my parents, you know what? You do get to come to this country legally through the front door if you want to follow the rules and pay your taxes and live according to our values. But it also means that your first act of entering this country cannot break the law, and that is why I will use our own military to secure our own southern border. That is what it means to be an American. Nations have borders. It means we believe in this radical idea that our founding fathers had, a radical dream that I have as a citizen, that the people who we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually run the government, not this bureaucracy that actually runs the show today. This is what it means to be a citizen of this country that we won the American Revolution to spawn. Above all, America as a country, we are founded on the pursuit of the truth itself. Why do we have free speech? The path to truth runs through free speech. America is a nation founded on the truth, and we should not be apologetic to stand up and speak for the truth. So let's do that today. Let's talk truth. Let's say what's true without fear. God is real. Unborn life is life. There are two genders. Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is not a border. Parents determine the education of their children. The nuclear family is the best known form of governance to mankind. Capitalism is the best system known to lift people up from poverty. We have 3 branches of government in this country, not 4. And the U.S. Constitution is the strongest guarantor of freedoms in human history. That is the truth. We will not back down from the truth. We will stand up for the truth. We will fight for the truth. That is what won us the American Revolution 250 years ago. That is what will win us the revolution of 2024. We have celebrated our diversity and our differences so much that we forgot all of the ways we are really just the same as Americans, bound by that common set of ideals, bound by the truth. That is what this nation was founded on. Our diversity can be a beautiful thing, but it is meaningless if there's nothing greater that unites us across that diversity. Without that, think about it with me. We're really just a different looking group of 2-legged higher mammals with a bunch of different shades of melanin walking some geographic space we call a country, doing what our iPhones told us to do on a given day. That's not America. It's the America I see sometimes, but that is not the America we know. The America we know is a vision of what that place can be. E pluribus unum means from many, one. That's the dream that won the American Revolution. That is the dream that reunited us after the Civil War. That is the dream that won us 2 world wars and the Cold War. That is the dream that still gives hope to the free world. And if we can revive that dream over group identity and victimhood and grievance then nobody in the world, not a nation, not a corporation, not a virus is going to defeat us. That's what American exceptionalism is all about. And that is what we together will revive to save this great nation. And I will tell you this in closing this up. Tonight, we see the real problems in our country. They are real. We have an administrative state that runs the government instead of the real government. I'm going to fix that. We're dependent on our enemy for our modern way of life in a way that was never true in American history. We depend on the CCP. We can rise up to the occasion and fix that. We have a generation of Americans, Gen Z, less than 15% of whom say they're proud to be an American. 25% recruitment deficit in the U.S. military. 60% of whom say they would sooner give up their right to vote than to give up their access to TikTok. We are in a national identity crisis, but I promise you this as we leave tonight, leave this afternoon and this morning when you go back home, wherever you go, remember this. We don't have to be a nation in decline. We do not have to be Rome. We do not have to be Carthage. As a nation, I truly believe it, and take it from me as a young person. I'm 37 years old. I was born in 1985. I truly hope and pray and believe that my best days may still be ahead of me. I think the same is true of our country. I believe it is true that our best days as a country can still be ahead of us. We don't have to be a nation in decline. We are just a little young, going through our own version of adolescence, figuring out who we are going to be when we grow up. And when you see it that way, it starts to make sense again. When you go through adolescence, you go through that identity crisis. You doubt yourself. You doubt who you are. You forget what you're made of. But we are stronger on the other side of it when we get to our adulthood. As it is for us as individuals, let it be for us as a nation. I don't think we're a nation in decline. I still believe in my bones that we are a nation in our ascent. In the early stages of our ascent, on our way, we might not even be at base camp in our way to that mountaintop. I believe.
All right, Vivek Ramaswamy at the Faith and Freedom Coalition event, Washington, D.C. It was all part of our live coverage here on Real America's Voice. I want to thank Birch Gold for sponsoring today's event. Former President Donald Trump will take the stage as the keynote speaker in just a short time at the Oakland County, Michigan Lincoln Day dinner. I expect him to talk about energy, foreign policy, the border, the failures of Russia and Ukraine, and the folly of us sending billions and billions of dollars there. Expect it all to be discussed coming up. We're going to take a quick break. Remember this program, the special report, brought to you by Birch Gold. We'll have more in just a moment. right. Look, Donald Trump, not the most on-time individual on occasion. He will be taking the stage in Oakland County, Michigan for the Republican Lincoln Day dinner where he will be honored as the man of the decade by Michigan Republicans. David Zier is standing by there. He will be giving us live coverage throughout this live event here on Real America's Voice. David, what do you got?
There's a lot of legislation either pending or that's been passed in Michigan that people feel have been punitive, and maybe we can discuss that. I spoke to Christine Caramo's representative earlier. She's trying to make a way up here on the riser, but these people got pulled up backstage for the program that's going to start shortly here. But she wanted to discuss election integrity issues and also this new bill that makes free speech a felon, and it puts the onus on a defendant to prove that they didn't harass or insult or make somebody feel bad, instead of the proof being on the plaintiff to say that this person, did something bad to them. And my question is also about hiring practice. She wanted to discuss also. Maybe when Tudor gets up here, we could discuss that as well. But my concern and my question to you, Steve, is Michigan falling off the cliff like New York and California? What's going on?
The short answer is yes, David. It is. And in fact, with very small majorities. Look, in the Michigan House, the Democrats, for the first time in 40 years, got control of the House and the Senate. The House 56-54, the Senate 20-18. And with Governor Gretchen Whitmer in the governor's mansion, they're treating it as if it was a mandate of massive proportion, which it's not, of course. But as you know, David, Democrats tend to walk lockstep, whether it's under Nancy Pelosi's direction or that of Governor Whitmer. Republicans tend to have different opinions, different ideas. They discuss things, not the Democrats. No, they just march straight ahead. The first state ever to get rid of right-to-work laws, Michigan. Passing red flag laws that mean if you are turned in by a former spouse, an ex-wife, an ex-husband, saying that person's dangerous, they can come pound on your door and take your guns. There are all sorts of things going on in Michigan that are not in sync with the rest of the world, but that right to work, rejecting that. And here's another one for you, David, you probably haven't heard about. Union dues being fully deductible on your taxes now. Fully deductible meaning if you are owed $1,000 and part of that was a deduction for your union dues, then your neighbors will be sending you the money for your union dues. I don't believe that exists anywhere else in this country. I mean, talk about radical ideas. And back to the free speech being declared a felony, which that whole bill is on its way to the governor's desk. That would mean that freedom of speech doesn't exist in Michigan. Of course, none of these things are going to pass muster, many of them anyhow, when they reach the courts. But as you know, going to court, David, is a process. It could take a year or 2 or 10 while these things are out there in limbo. And in the meantime, your civil rights are destroyed, your constitutional rights are ignored, your basic human rights are abused. I mean, that's how this is all being played, because the Democrats are ruthless politically, which is why I've said on this network numerous times, it's time for Republicans to fight like Democrats, which means do everything it takes to win, short of breaking the rules. But the Democrats have changed the rules to their advantage in so many places. The Republicans need to learn to play by the new rules. We can beat those folks at these rules. We just have to play by those rules. And for me, that means voting on the first day possible. And in Michigan, there's like 7 weeks now of voting, plus 9 days of early in-person voting that we have no way to pay for, but was mandated in something that was passed by voters in November of 22. So there's a lot going on in Michigan. So yes, are we falling off the cliff? The short answer is yes. The longer answer is what I just gave you.
Yeah, I spoke to Bernie Kerik at Bedminster the day of the Trump indictment a few weeks ago. So he was explaining how the government, whether it's the feds or the state, and in New York State, the Attorney General can be vicious, suing the Trump family for $250 million civilly right now. That first they come after you, then they come after your family. Then they come after your attorney, and then your attorney-client privilege, making you turn over your conversations with your attorney to the prosecutors. And this is the tactic of this two-tier justice system. So in Michigan, if you're in a conversation with somebody even, and you're not necessarily insulting to a person, can they just run to a court and to an attorney and say you made them feel uncomfortable, and now all of a sudden you're going to face 5 years in jail or a $10,000 fine that I think can be quintupled? So it's very scary, right?
Yet to be tested, David. The answer is we don't know yet. It's yet to be tested in the courts, and it will be tested in the courts. So, we're going to find out. That and some other things that are going to be tested in the courts in Michigan and elsewhere as, the Democrats continue to run roughshod over the rights enshrined. So remember, the government doesn't give us rights. The Constitution there is to defend us against the government from taking our rights. People misunderstand what the Constitution. We're not getting rights from people. Our rights come from our Creator, period. God-given rights, right? Anyhow.
Yes.
What time is the president supposed to be on the stage?
Steve,
do you know that? What's our schedule there, David?
Well, originally it was 6:30, and I heard he was delayed where he was coming from. I don't know if he was coming from Newark, but he probably will be about a half hour late. That's what I'm getting on the ground here. So we'll keep you posted, and as soon as the other guests break free, but it's an important night for Trump here, right? Can he bridge that gap that he lost by in Michigan in the last presidential election? Probably a very important campaign stop for him, right?
Very important. Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, as we talked about, he nabbed in 2016, much to the shock of the Hillary Clinton campaign. Those went the other way in 2020 for whatever reason you may fill in the blank for that. I'm not going to debate it at the moment. We all have our ideas on how that occurred, but that's how it ended up. David's here. We'll get back to David. Thank you for being here as always, David. Now we're going to go back to the Faith and Freedom Coalition get-together in D.C. for a few minutes. We'll see if David gets some of those guests to wander back up to him so we can talk to some of the folks in attendance there tonight. Maybe Ted Nugent will come and give him a guitar solo in person. Who knows? But one of the guys that I think has started to garner some real national attention, and my guess is will run for president, not this year, but in the future. The former Attorney General and current senator, senior senator actually, from the state of Missouri now, is, say that again? Oh. Well, you know what? Let's go to Ted Nugent. I mentioned him. He's on the stage there. Let's hear what he has to say.
Let me guess. Do you know how honored and humbled, inspired, motivated, stimulated I am to be here with real Michigan? I love real Michigan. I love real America. See that flag right there? That's my pride flag right there. That's what that is. I'm so radical. I believe in God, family, country, Constitution, Bill of Rights, 10 Commandments, Golden Rule, Declaration of Independence, that Michigan work ethic that once provided the greatest quality of life in the history of mankind. I love you people. And since we're here to celebrate the greatest president in the history of the United States, we might as well have the most extreme shit-kicker Detroiter in the history of Michigan. So thank you. I will now perform a very passionate, fire-breathing, star-spangled banner. For freedom is not free, and I have heroes here tonight from the U.S. Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the U.S. Marine Corps, the National Guard, the Coast Guard. We got Navy SEALs here. Say thank you to the Navy SEALs, the Green Berets, the Army Rangers, the heroes in law enforcement. And you know who the heroes in the military and law enforcement are? They're the ones that will defy an immoral command. Heroes defy an oath-violating, immoral command. So thank you for standing. And now my guitar does not gently weep. Now, everybody go forth and convince your family, your friends, your neighbors, your fishing buddies, your hunting buddies at the barbecue. It is your moral obligation to convince everybody in your life that the only way to save America is to vote for Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Trump is the warrior. He's the man in the arena. And if we cannot convince enough Americans to overwhelmingly support this great man, then we deserve what we get. So raise hell like you mean it. I love real Michigan. Thank you very much. I love you back.
All right, there's only one like that. Ted Nugent from Detroit, Michigan. Born there in 1948. Ted Nugent. Never shy, Ted Nugent. He also has a program right here on this network. So does his wife, by the way, Shemaine. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to check in with the senator from Missouri, Josh Hawley. We're going to keep an eye on this. This is from the Faith and Freedom Coalition from yesterday. But if more speakers take the stage, we'll break back in with live programming here. Here's Senator Hawley.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Boy, it is good to be here. I tell you what, it is always good to be with some patriotic, Bible-believing, God-fearing Americans. Or as Joe Biden calls you, threats to our democracy. Hey, I tell you what, let me just get my confessions in right up front here. I'm proud to be here as a conservative, but much more important than that, I am proud to be here as a follower of Jesus Christ. I am not ashamed of the gospel. It is the power of God unto salvation to all who believe. And I just say this to our friends on the left who are constantly telling us that faith and politics have to be separated, that we as Christians are supposed to keep our beliefs and our faith and our expression inside the church walls. I just say no way, no how, not in the United States of America. There is not 1 square inch of all creation over which Jesus Christ is not Lord. And there is not 1 square inch of this country or the problems we face that the Bible does not have something to say about. And it is time for Christians to be bold again and to take the lead again. Listen, you know, in every hour of this country's danger, in every moment of trying, Christians have risen to help lead this country and to help lead the way. We did it in the First Great Awakening that helped move this country toward revolution and independence. We did it in the abolitionist movement that fought for decades to eliminate the scourge of slavery. And you know, in this month, when we have a federal holiday where we recognize the abolition of slavery in this country, can I just tell a truth here again that the left finds hard to believe? Here it is. Christianity is the faith, and America is the place that slavery came to die. And we should be proud of that. Christians were the ones. It was Christians who led the evangelical reform movement in the last century that protected the family by ending child labor in this country, by limiting the working hours for men in the factories to protect them so they could come home to their families, so they get the Sabbath day off and be able to worship the Lord. No, at every moment, at every time, Christians have risen to lead, and now it's time again. Because we are facing the greatest challenge this country has ever seen, certainly in my lifetime. You know, President Reagan told a group of evangelicals 40 years ago this year that the focus of evil in his day was Soviet Marxism. Well, now we face a new Marxism that is rising in this country, a cultural Marxism that has infected our universities. It has taken over much of the media, the entertainment industry, and it now totally controls the Democrat Party. A new Marxism that wants to see our history completely disparaged, that tells us America is systemically racist, systemically bigoted, that the soul of America is somehow warped. This is a Marxism that says that there's no such thing as male and female, that there's not two genders, there's 2,000 genders, and it tells our children that the way God made them is wrong. Yeah, this is a new Marxism that is the greatest challenge that we face, and it has infected even our corporations. And I'll just tell you this, the left, they're always saying separation of church and state, separation of church and state. But here's the deal. These new Marxists want to give America a new religion. They want to impose on us the religion of woke. It is the religion of transgenderism, critical race theory, and open borders multiculturalism. And they are shoving it down our throats. The leftist elites have proclaimed themselves as the priests of this new religion. They're the high priests. Here's the problem. The country doesn't agree with them. They're wrong, we're right. It's easy. And the question of our time is, who's going to lead this country? Who's going to run this country? Is it going to be we the people? Or is it going to be the new priests of wokery? That's the question we face. And now in this time of challenge and trial, we need Christians to rise to lead. And just think of the onslaught of these new Marxists, of these new priests of woke. Look what they're doing at Target, trying to force on us and on our children this gender ideology, this transgender ideology. Look what they're doing at Bud Light, a company that tells every red-blooded, blue-collar working man in this country that he needs to be re-educated. I mean, really, look what Big Pharma is doing. Big Pharma, let's tell the truth, Big Pharma is making millions, if not billions of dollars on chemical abortion drugs that kill our children in the womb. They're profiting off of it big time. Those same companies are making money hand over fist doing what? Making drugs that sterilize our children, telling them that they shouldn't be the gender that God made them to be. Now, I tell you what, all across this country, we see these corporations pushing relentlessly this Marxist agenda, pushing relentlessly this religion of woke. And some Republicans I've heard recently, some Republicans have said, oh, but I don't like culture wars. I don't want to have to engage in a culture war. And they also say, oh, but don't criticize corporate America. We mustn't do that. I just say to those people, listen, we may not have started this culture war, but we're going to win it. We are going to win it. And as for corporate America and criticizing them, let's get one thing straight. Corporations are not people. And there is no reason why corporate America should control this country. I've got news for these corporations, these woke corporations. We are not going to surrender this nation to the cultural Marxists in the C-suite. No way, no how. These are the people, let's not forget, these are the people sitting in the C-suite who have for decades now shipped our jobs overseas. They are happy to sell out American workers to go make a quick buck in China. These are the people who are happy to pay slave wages in China and other nations, and they won't pay American workers a fair wage. They take our jobs away, they decimate our communities, and then they lecture us about social justice. These are the people who are out there pushing this woke ideology, forcing it down our throats at every turn, and now they want to reduce us to mere consumers. Their message to us, all of them, the Targets and the Bud Lights and the Coca-Colas, their message to us is just shut up and buy the stuff that we tell you to buy. Well, I tell you what, here's my response. As the Apostle Paul said, I will not be subject again to a yoke of slavery. So no, thank you. This country belongs to us, not to the corporations, and I don't know about you, but it's time to get those corporations, the woke corporations, out of politics. Enough! Get them out. And their money, get it out of politics. Why should those corporations, why should the C-suite and all of these woke executives, why should they and their money count more than your vote? Why should they be able to control this country rather than we the people? Why should they be the ones who set the agenda? Well, they try to debase our culture and serve their God that is money. No, thank you. No, we need to stand up again for the right of the people to run this country, for the right of the people to be in charge. And Christians have to lead this movement. You know, Christians, we believe. Why did the United States of America embrace the liberty of the individual? You and I know why. It's because Jesus Christ went to a cross to pay for the sins of every individual. It's because we know the dignity of every individual because we believe in a God who created every individual with worth. That's why we fight for the lives of the innocent unborn. That's why we fight for those who are not heard, and that's why we believe in democracy, because we the people have the right to rule, because we the people have rights given to us not by government, not by corporations, not by the liberal elite, but given to us by God, and we will not surrender those rights. We will reclaim them for our day. That's the task in front of us. That's the task in front of us. And so now we need Christians again to rise up and take the lead. Listen, let me just be really clear on this for those in Washington who don't get it. Let me say it really plainly. There is no future for the conservative movement without Christians. And I just say to all of those DC consultants who just can't stand to talk about evangelicals and who cringe every time you mention the right to life and who hate all of this talk about defending our culture, there is no future for the Republican Party without Christians. Get it into your heads. It was Christians who stood up to put Ronald Reagan in the White House in 1980, yes. It was Christians who put Donald Trump in the White House, and it is Christians who will lead this movement forward. And the reason for that is simple. It's because the Christian faith is what has formed the soul of this nation. You know, Abraham Lincoln called it our ancient faith. It was the faith that united this country, the faith that you see written into the Declaration of Independence. That we have our rights, inalienable, can't be taken away from us, inalienable by a creator God. That is what has united this country. It is what has shaped the soul of this country. It remains the hope and inspiration of the working men and women of this country even now. And so as the left attacks our faith, as they attack the Bible, as they attack the influence of Christianity in our nation, we know that the
Josh Hawley, Senator, state of Missouri. I like him. I do. I think he's a direct, unafraid, unabashed conservative Christian, and I like him for that. This special on Real America's Voice brought to you by Birch Gold. We wait for the former President of the United States, Donald Trump, to arrive in Oakland County, Michigan, there in Novi, for the Lincoln Day Dinner 2023, where he will be named the man of the decade for the Republicans. Running a bit late. He was supposed to be up in about 15 minutes from now. He's running a bit behind, maybe top of the hour. We'll keep an eye on it for you. We'll take a quick break here. Again, brought to you by Birch Gold, our good friends. We'll be right back. Michigan freshman Congressman John James on the stage now at that GOP event in Oakland County. Let's go straight to it.
I'm so glad to be surrounded by patriots just like you who understand that and feel it in their bones and are not willing to take anything less than acceptance of this great country requires sacrifice in order to maintain. GOP is a party of emancipation. Abraham Lincoln was a great emancipator, and we stand on his shoulders, his great legacy. But right now we are standing with people who within our own borders are willing to tear that down. Far left extremists led by the White House who truly, it seems, want to hurt this country. I don't believe that many people on the left truly believe that our founding documents mean what they say, but we're going to remind them. This Republican majority, this slim Republican majority, is the backstop for freedom. It's the last line of defense, and we have to do everything that we can to protect this country. Me and my colleagues are fighting for a few important issues, namely the Americans' Confidence in Elections Act. We the people deserve a government that answers to us. They owe us answers, not the other way around. We're fighting to protect our seniors, Social Security and Medicare, which I said from day one during the debt ceiling debate that it would be separated from that debate so our seniors would get back what they put in. I authored this bill, and it was taken up. I also voted to create the Committee on China and the CCP, and I introduced a No American Tax Dollars to CCP Act. Hey, raise your hand if you want your hard-earned tax dollars to go to the CCP. Raise your hand if you appreciate Gretchen Whitmer and Joe Biden sending your middle class to China. We got to do more than boo. We have to make sure our voice is heard in Lansing and make sure our voice is heard in Washington and send people who will put your interests first and not China's. Just this past week, I voted to censure Adam Schiff. Possibly the greatest example of why nobody trusts Congress. I also introduced a bill to expand the Trump-era opportunity zones championed by Senator Tim Scott and President Trump. In my district and in every district across the country, talent is evenly distributed across the population, but opportunity is not. We need to make sure that we do everything that we can to make sure this opportunity makes it to Michigan. Speaking of which, of opportunity and favoritism. Anybody heard about Hunter Biden? It is not normal for a president's son, or at the time a vice president's son, to be such a threat to our national security. It's not normal for a parent to be so relaxed about their son's drug problem. But you know what is normal? It is normal for my friend Rebecca Kiesling to be heartbroken when she loses her 2 sons to a fentanyl overdose. That's normal. To fight all the way to Washington to make sure that her voice is heard and that doesn't happen to anybody else's sons. What is not normal is the fact that Joe Biden mocked her and laughed. Come to think of it, the media and the coastal elites sold us and I a whole idea that Joe Biden was a return to normalcy. Even Biden himself promised us a return to normalcy in March 2021. Normal. Does any of this feel normal to you? Is a topless party on the White House lawn, does that seem normal to you? Is inflationary curve so steep that families in my district are forced to cut their milk with water for their babies? Does that seem normal to you? Is the administration so afraid of our number one adversary, the CCP, that our own Secretary of State can't even say we support a Taiwanese ally? Does that seem normal to you? Is it normal to have watched the fall of Afghanistan and 13 of our heroic service members who lost their lives at the hands of the feeble leadership, and we surrendered billions and billions of dollars in weapons to the Taliban? Does that sound normal to you? Yeah, none of this is normal. But normal has become failing you under this Biden administration, and that stops in 2024, because in 2024, we fire Joe Biden. We are here because we believe in America, but most importantly, we believe in each other. We are not going to let backbiting lead to the backsliding of this nation. We need everyone in this room to get active, get inspired, remind your friends and family about the time not long ago when you could be proud of your country. You know, Joe Biden loves taking vacations so much. Let's send him on a permanent vacation back down to his basement next November. Thank you all for welcoming me here tonight. Thank you all for welcoming President Donald J. Trump. Let's win in 2024 and reignite America. Thank you. God bless Michigan. God bless America. And let's fly.
Congressman John James, freshman member there, getting a huge round of applause when he said that he voted to censure Adam Schiff. In California happened last week. Big round of applause from the Republican faithful there. John James ran for Senate in Michigan and lost. He came back and ran for the U.S. House and won, and is a freshman there now. Also, David Zier is standing by with somebody that we know well here at Real America's Voice. She ran for governor after being a colleague with us here. In fact, she co-hosted programs with me here on Real America's Voice. Tudor Dixon, of course, is her name, and she's standing by with David Zier at the event right now. I believe they're ready. David, are you standing by? You ready with my good friend Tudor Dixon?
Yeah, we're ready to go here. We have one of my favorite people, and formerly with Real America's Voice News, and I had the incredible opportunity to broadcast with you for a couple of years. Tudor Dixon, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for coming to Michigan. We appreciate it.
It's great to see you. You have a beautiful family. So there's so much going on in Michigan now, and the direction of the state seems to be going like over, right? To the other side more and more. Tell us about the plant, the Chinese plant here, and in relation to Biden, maybe.
Well, the governor is desperate because she hasn't been able to attract any business to the state of Michigan. So she and the legislature got together and they gave this Chinese battery plant $750 million taxpayer dollars to come to the state of Michigan. The big problem is that in their bylaws, they say that they clearly state that they want a CCP, a Chinese Communist Party operation on site in the middle of the state of Michigan. We don't even know what these parts are that they're making or where they will be shipped, but she is fiercely defending bringing the CCP into Michigan.
Right, and we see that time and time again. And do we have the standing now to challenge it? And Trump probably would challenge something like that, right?
Well, it's certainly questionable right now when we just see these text messages come out that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden are making deals with someone that is a representative of the Chinese Communist Party.
It was like a scene out of The Sopranos. It's like, hey, you got to get the money right away. Now, like that was nuts, right?
I'll hold a grudge, and I mean tonight. I mean, this exactly. We read this and we think this can't possibly be real, but this is real, and this is the United States of America. You look back at when he was a 30-year-old senator, and they said, well, you're not corrupt, are you? And he said, what? Why do you think I'm not corrupt? Yeah. Well, he's had several years, more than most other people, to get bribes and to be involved in these things, and he clearly, it looks as though he has been.
Right. Just to touch briefly on, there's new legislation pending on free speech can become a felony in the state of Michigan, where the burden is on you as the defendant to prove that you didn't hurt somebody's feelings. Can you go into that a little?
Well, anytime you're dealing with a Democrat state, now we are fully blue, you're going to have situations where you see that they're trying to push this. The Republicans, I'm hoping that they'll be able to fight back on some of these things, but the Democrats are in control. And so we do have free speech threatened We have our gun rights threatened right now. And if you look at the governor, her biggest concern is whether or not we are able to bring people to the state that belong to certain communities. It has nothing to do with business or advancing the state. And we just see continued attacks on our rights here in the state of Michigan. And so it's important. This upcoming election is very important to the people of Michigan to make sure that we get people locally elected, but also the right guy in the White House.
Right. So you have so many important races coming up here, and you're going to run again, maybe?
We'll see. Maybe. Right now I'm going to help people get elected.
All right. Well, you ran a terrific campaign, everybody. The great Tudor Dixon. We look forward to talking to you and catching up with you soon, okay?
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much. Good to see you all.
Yeah. Have a great night. And back to you in the studio, Steve.
All right, there you have it. Tudor Dixon with David Zier there, Oakland County, Michigan, the Lincoln Day dinner. The president was supposed to speak at about 6:30 Eastern time tonight. He's running a bit late. Got a late start out in New Jersey, we're told. Now, we're going to take a pause here for just a minute. But want to let you know this event brought to you by Birch Gold. Our good friends will take a break and be back on Real America's Voice. All right, continuing live coverage from Oakland County, Michigan. Steve Gruber here with you on Real America's Voice. Former President Donald Trump will take the stage here, we hope, in about 30 minutes or so there at the Lincoln Day event. It's being hosted by the Oakland County Republican Party, where they will give him an honor, quite an honor, Man of the Decade, to the former president, who is also the leading candidate to be the nominee for president again in 2024. But just over the past weekend, Real America's Voice right here on this network had continuing coverage of the Faith and Freedom Conference that was held in D.C. One of those running for president is Tim Scott, the senator from South Carolina. Again, a lot of these folks, I don't believe, have a legitimate chance of winning the nomination, but they do have a legitimate chance of winning a place in a cabinet or an administration. So this is an important consideration. And Tim Scott has a story to tell. He told part of it at the get-together in D.C. Listen.
I once heard that the era of value voters was over, someone wrote recently. I'm so excited that they were dead wrong. I'm looking around here and I see people just like me who have faith on their sleeves, Jesus in their hearts, and we're just getting started. I'll say this. The truth of my life disproves the lies of the radical left. They want to divide our country according to race and create tribes. But I'm here to say, not on my watch. Hallelujah. I'll say this, there's no question. When you think about the radical left and their agenda, we have to start with tomorrow's anniversary and thank God Almighty for the Dobbs decision. Absolutely. We are creating a culture of life in America, and that's a really good thing. But I will say, without any question, the Secretary of the Treasury was in the middle of a banking hearing, and I'm on the banking committee. And I heard the Secretary of the Treasury, the second most powerful woman in the Biden administration, say that poor black women should have abortions to improve their labor force participation rate. I said to myself, I could not have heard that right. I know y'all don't know this, but I'm black. And so I said to myself, my mother.
All right, we're going to head back to the stage in Oakland County, Michigan. Lisa McClain, the member of Congress from Michigan's congressional delegation, Republican, on the stage speaking. Let's hear what she has to say.
Of people from 18 to 45 years of age in this country. Crime and homelessness have risen dramatically, and innocent lives have been taken at the hands of criminals that don't belong in our United States. It is absolutely.
All right, we seem to have a bit of a technical difficulty. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to Tim Scott from the Faith and Freedom Conference. We'll figure out what our issue is. These things happen sometimes for a live broadcast. Bear with us, but here's Tim Scott back to the Faith and Freedom Convention in D.C.
Made the decision for life. And I thank God Almighty that she chose to bring me in the world. So I ran down to my banking hearing to ask Secretary Yellen myself, just to see if I heard her right. And she said, she doubled down on it. She said, absolutely, in order to increase black employment and black opportunity, abortion is an alternative. What a desperate position to take. The radical left has lost so much faith in America, they've lost faith in life itself, but we are here to tell them, life is good, and we are proud to be Americans. We are proud to live in the freest, fairest land on God's green earth. Well, I said, the truth of my life disproves the lies of the radical left, and I said that because not only was the Secretary Yellen, but then the ladies on The View, Joy Behar, told me, I don't know what it feels like to be black. I was like, let me go on that show and have a conversation with the women of The View. Because I gotta say, their comments were offensive and dangerous and disgusting. And so I went on The View and said, your comments are offensive, dangerous, and disgusting. Because to suggest that the only way for a child of color to make it in this nation is to be the exception and not the rule is a lie from the pit of hell. A lie from the pit of hell. But then President Obama decided to jump in as well. I can't hear you. Oh, okay. I heard you, okay. He says, I'm too optimistic. I have been accused of being too optimistic, too positive, too proud to be an American. For those accounts, I am guilty. Guilty as charged. I love America. I love our country. I love our country because I had a miserable beginning. I started off on the wrong foot. My parents got divorced when I was 7 years old. We moved into my grandparents' house. My grandfather was born in 1921 in a very segregated South Carolina. But he believed back then what too many doubt right now. He believed in having stubborn faith. Faith in God, faith in yourself, and faith in what America could be. And when we moved in, he said to me, as a 7-year-old, you can be bitter or you can be better, but you can't be both. My family chose patriotism, not pity. We chose that this is the land of opportunity, not the land of oppression. And my mother said, God bless my mom. She worked 16 hours a day as a nurse's aide, changing bedpans and rolling patients. And she came home and she would tell me every single day in her own way, there is dignity in all work. And that's why I know as a nation, if you are able-bodied, you work. If you take out a loan, you pay it back. And if you commit a violent crime, you go to jail. These are American values. And myself, as a kid, I went to 4 different elementary schools by the 4th grade. It's one of the reasons why I believe that every parent needs a choice so every child has a chance. We must make sure that every zip code in this nation is empowered with school choice so that our kids do not have to be indoctrinated, but they get educated. And then we quit teaching CRT and we start teaching ABC. It's time for us to get back to teaching American history in the United States of America. But the Biden administration and the radical left, they refuse to allow our kids to be educated. So when parents show up at school board meetings, they label them domestic terrorists. That's wrong. When pro-life activists exercise their First Amendment rights, the SWAT team shows up, guns blazing, at a home because of a pro-life activist exercising their First Amendment rights. But even worse, in this radical left Biden administration, they weaponize the Department of Justice against their political enemies. That is wrong. We deserve better in the United States of America. We deserve better. I wish, and as President of the United States, I would change the trajectory of this nation by focusing on restoring confidence and integrity in the DOJ, because we will first fire Joe Biden, second, fire Merrick Garland, third, fire Chris Wray at the FBI. And then we will turn our attention to our southern border and build a wall and close our southern border. We are going to stop 70,000 Americans from losing their lives to fentanyl because of the precursors that come from China, manufactured in Mexico, and Mexican cartels bringing it across our border. Not on my watch. They will cease to exist. And then we'll turn our attention to China. China is an existential threat to our nation, and we should deal with them as such. They are spying on our kids, buying our farmlands, and breaching our sovereign borders while setting up a base in Cuba. It is time to have a president of the United States who has a backbone and will stand toe-to-toe with China and say, never again. Not in Cuba, not in South America, and not.
As Tim Scott from the Faith and Freedom Coalition in D.C. over the weekend. We covered it live here in Real America's Voice. As we head towards election season, expect our coverage to ramp up for all of these events. Tonight, we're waiting for the former President Donald Trump to take the stage, maybe in about 15 or 20 minutes. Not quite sure yet. Waiting for an update from David Zier on the ground. We'll get to that. We'll take a pause here on Real America's Voice. This special event brought to you by Birch Gold. Don't go anywhere. All right, keeping an eye on what's happening at the event in Oakland County, Michigan. The former President Donald Trump going to be at the Lincoln Day dinner event there, running a few minutes late, not unexpected as far as that goes. Expect to talk about the border, energy, what's going on with China, our economy, all of it. Certainly what's going on with Russia and Vladimir Putin being chased by rogue elements of his bought and paid for militias. A lot of things going on. A lot of things going on that can show weakness in what's happening with the country now. Now, here's Donald Trump, so we're going to pause to tell you this is being brought to you by Birch Gold. When Joe Biden was in office, and not this man, we saw inflation surge, deficit spending, and the national debt have hit record highs directly because of these challenges. President Trump recently warned, quote, our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will frankly be our greatest defeat in 200 years. Now, in a direct affront to the dollar's status as global reserve currency, the BRICS group of nations led by China and Russia rumored to be just 2 months away from launching their own currency. With the dollar seemingly on its last leg, it's more important than ever to take some hard looks at moving some savings into gold. And you can own gold at a tax-sheltered retirement account with the help of Birch Gold. That's right, Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. And the best part, you don't pay a penny out of pocket. To get started, Birch Gold is giving away a free information kit on gold. All you have to do is text the word America to 989898. That's right. Think about this. When currencies fail, like President Trump said they might, gold is a safe haven. How much more time does the dollar have, especially with BRICS looming ominously overhead? Protect your savings with gold now. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of happy customers. Text America to the number 989898. Get your free information kit on gold. And now, President Donald Trump is on the stage in Oakland County at the Republican Lincoln Day event. Greeting the crowd, little music. We go live to the stage.
Thank you very much, Lisa. It's great to be back in Michigan. We love Michigan with the amazing Patriots of Oakland County. And tonight I'm deeply honored to receive the Oakland County GOP's Man of the Decade Award for the second time. Second time, wow. Almost 10 years to this day ago, it was a great honor. In 2013, I received it, and I remember I got up and I said, how come you're allowing them to take away your car business? What did I know, right? But I was right about that. But it's really an honor to be with you. I want to thank Oakland County Republican Party Chairman Vance Patrick, great guy, great guy. I also want to recognize Michigan State Senators Jim Runstad and Jonathan Lindsay. They're great people. Thank them for my From the bottom of my heart, they gave us a beautiful endorsement. We appreciate that. Michael and so many of my friends are sitting right out there. Thank you very much. Michigan GOP Chairwoman Christina Carano. Christina Carano she's a hard worker. She's working very hard. She wants to keep this as a very honest election. Not easy to do. One of the great senators, one of the most powerful people. By the way, an incredible football coach. He was an incredible football coach, and now he's an incredible senator. Tommy Tuberville of Alabama. Where's Tommy? Tommy! He's an incredible man. Thank you. And they love him in Alabama. They love him all over the country. Somebody that really put up a good fight, fought very, very hard for Governor Tudor Dixon. Where's Tudor? She's a terrific person, and she fought hard. A friend of all of ours and a very well-known person in Michigan. He's a great restaurateur, Mark Zarkin. Thank you very much, Mark. It was a fantastic job. The food is very good, Mark. We could use him in a lot of our cities all over the country. If we could get a little younger version, he doesn't mind when I say that. I said what this city needs is a young Rudy Giuliani, and he's here. Where is he? Where is Rudy? Rudy, you're fantastic, Rudy. Greatest mayor in the history of New York. And also our friends with the Dominican fathers and sisters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. They're with us tonight. They've been with us right from the beginning. They're here someplace. Thank you, and thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right from the beginning. And by the way, you see Biden now, the real Biden, on religion. He's not in favor of religion. He can talk all he wants, but what they've done to Catholics and what they've done to evangelicals, what they've done to everybody is a disgrace. So the sisters got it long before anybody else, and we appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, all of you, for being here. It's a great honor. For 7 years, all of us have been fighting side by side to rescue our country from the sinister forces who truly hate our country and want to destroy it. And now we are approaching the most important battle of our lives. This is the most important election we've ever had, without question. On November 5th, 2024, we are going to stand up to the Marxists, the communists, the fascists, and the globalists. And we're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to win big. We're going to evict crooked Joe Biden from the White House. You notice I took the word away. I retired the word from crooked Hillary Clinton because I felt that Joe Biden needed it much more. He's crooked Joe. We're going to finish what we started, and we will make America great again. We will. For decades, the globalist vultures in Washington viciously betrayed Michigan workers and families like nobody can even believe. And they threw open our borders, plundering your factories and shipping your jobs to foreign lands, sometimes to lands that you've never even heard of. Michigan lost nearly 40% of all manufacturing jobs, everything after the NAFTA catastrophe and China's entrance into the World Trade Organization. Yeah, sit down, everybody. Yeah, sit down. I'm excited to be here also. Sit down. We'll be with you for a little while. Sit down and enjoy it. I think everybody, great. Great. I'm very honored by the fact you stand, but you sit down. Thank you. But after years of cruel sellouts by past leaders, you finally got a president who put Michigan first and put America first. It took a long time. And just as I promised, I saved the U.S. auto industry from total destruction. And I talked about it 10 years ago, 12 years ago. I talked about it for a long time, what they've done. They've taken almost 50% of manufacturing ability and brought it into other countries. Other countries are making cars now at a level that nobody can believe. I ended the disaster known as NAFTA. the worst trade deal ever made, and replaced it with the best trade deal ever made, the USMCA, that's Mexico and Canada. The USMCA is creating tens of thousands of jobs in the United States, and it's just been amazing the way it's worked. In fact, the jobs are so strong here that Mexico and Canada want to renegotiate the deal. Isn't that nice? Tommy Tuberville says, isn't that nice? Because we have had bad deals, every single one, but with tough new requirements to ensure more cars are made in American factories by American workers, and it's happening right here in Michigan. And this had nothing to do with the Democrats. They're going to end it. They want every car to be all electric, except you don't make all electric cars too much. You know who does? China. China makes them. The deal was so good that Mexico and Canada now, as I said, are working very diligently to destroy that deal and replace it with a deal that's very much in their favor. Don't do it, Biden administration. Don't do it. When I took office, the job-killing Trans-Pacific Partnership was set to slaughter U.S. automakers. It was slaughtering them. It was going to be a disaster. I stopped it. I vetoed it. I stopped it in its tracks. Every worker and supplier at Ford, GM, and Chrysler would have been crushed. They would have been out of business. It would have taken them out of business. Nobody understood it. Now they understood it. Joe Biden and Ron DeSanctimonious were both all in favor of it. But we stopped it cold. If I hadn't, you wouldn't have any auto production in Michigan. Just as I promised the people of Michigan, I withdrew from, it's called TPP, nice name, TPP. I withdrew on day one. I totally renegotiated Obama and Biden's horrendous Korea trade deal, one of the worst trade deals. But I renegotiated it. It would have flooded our market with foreign pickup trucks and cars, decimating your industry. I ended it, and I made it into a great deal. It's now a great deal for you. I also placed historic tariffs on all foreign aluminum and foreign steel, which saved your steel industry. Otherwise, you wouldn't even have a steel industry. And if you don't have steel, you don't have a country. Like borders, like elections, you got to have real elections. We don't have real elections. We have fake elections. I stood up to China like no administration has ever done before, bringing in hundreds of billions of dollars pouring into our treasury from China, when no other president had gotten them to pay even 10 cents. China never gave us anything except lip service. And when China targeted our farmers, which they did viciously and violently, I said to our Secretary of Agriculture, what's the damage that they did over the years? It was $28 billion. So I gave our farmers $28 billion from China. I got it from China, straight out of the tariffs that China was paying. $28 billion to our farmers. That's why when they say, how are you doing in Iowa? How are you doing in Nebraska? I said, there's no way the farmers are voting against me. I got them $28 billion. But you never know, do you? Except we just had a poll come out of Iowa where I'm leading by 47%. So I'd have to lose pretty quickly. Now, we're doing great in Iowa. We're doing great all over. Ron DeSantis opposed my China tariffs very strongly, and simply put, he sided with the communists in China while I fought for workers in America, and successfully like nobody has ever fought so successfully. No president has fought harder either for Michigan than I have. No president has ever fought harder. I saw what was happening from day one. And sadly, none has betrayed Michigan more than crooked Joe Biden. He's betrayed your state because he's allowing people to take away your jobs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. You'll see it over the next couple of years. Right now, you're not feeling it as much because of what we did, but you'll see it. For 3 years, Biden and his radical left allies have waged war on American auto workers like nobody has witnessed to this extent before. in his ridiculous crusade to force everyone into electric cars. And by the way, they have a place. Right now they're selling it about 5%. They have a place. They want them to sell it 100%. But we don't have the goods to make them. You know who has the goods? China has the goods. China has the countries and controls the countries with what they need for the batteries. But you know what we have more than anybody else, including Saudi Arabia and Russia? We have liquid gold right under our feet. Biden has doubled the CAFE standards, costing automakers an estimated $200 billion, and that number is going up, and sending car prices skyrocketing and killing thousands and thousands of U.S. auto jobs, in addition to which you can't produce because you can't get the chips and you can't have, your supply chain is a disaster. The whole country is a mess. Biden is a catastrophe for Michigan, and his environmental extremism is heartless and disloyal and horrible for the American worker, and you're starting to see it. Driven by his ridiculous regulations, electric cars will kill more than half of U.S. auto jobs and decimate the suppliers. They're being decimated already. Decimate the suppliers, and it's going to decimate your jobs, and it's going to decimate more than anybody else the state of Michigan. It's going to be decimation. It's going to be at a level that people can't even imagine. Meanwhile, the cars don't go far. The range is even worse in the winter. The materials are all made in China, and it takes so much energy to produce the batteries that electric cars don't even break even environmentally for at least 5 to 10 years. They'll never break even. It's a catastrophe waiting to happen. And if somebody wants an electric car, I'm all for it. But you should be able to have a choice of many different versions of automation and automobiles. It's crazy what they're doing. You know, in California, they're talking about all electric cars, and yet they're having blackouts all summer long. We have no electricity. Now they want to go all electric. And you know, some people want to be able to drive more than an hour and a half. The governor of your state is now giving away hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of Michigan taxpayer money to Chinese companies, and one in particular called Grosjean, to build batteries in Michigan. Now, it sounds good, but the money's going to Chinese companies. And then they're going to leave. They're planning to leave. You watch. They'll take our money, and then they say, bye-bye, you stupid fools. That's good for China, but it's bad for America. It's bad for Michigan. And it's very bad for the unions. You know, I'm somebody that gets along with the unions. Actually, the top people are so in love with Democrats because they go to parties together and all. But the people that are in the union, they love me. You know, when I approved the Keystone Pipeline, I met the pipeline workers, and they were all for me. They were all for me. But their leader was against me. He was for Joe Biden. And this was the biggest pipeline, one of the biggest pipelines in the world. 50,000 jobs. And on day one, they terminated the Keystone Pipeline. So I wonder how that man did. He didn't do too well. The head of the union was it was a disaster. But you know, the union workers support me far more than they support Democrats. And they're great people, and they're talented people, and they've been treated very badly. And their leadership, they pay their dues and everything, and their leadership has treated union workers very, very badly, very unfairly. This maniacal push for all electric cars is killing the United States, killing Michigan, is a total boon for China, and it's because Biden is being paid off. We just found out yesterday. He's being paid off by China. He's been paid millions and millions of dollars in bribes. They're bribing him. And all of those people, see these people, they don't want to talk about it. I just saw a camera go off right now. They don't want to hear about it, even though it's 100%. The reason that this is happening, and the reason that all of these things are taking place with China and there's no retribution, is because he's being paid off. And you know who likes all electric cars is the You know the companies that do the best with all electric cars? Do you know who it is? The tow truck companies. Those tow truck, and I love them too. I love them too. I probably won't get their vote, but I'll get everybody else's vote. No, the tow truck companies, because they don't know where the hell to charge their car. They're in the middle of the country. Oh my, what do I do? Where's the charger? You're not gonna find. And you know who boosts up the chargers? Huh? Do you know who does it? Oil and gas and coal. That's the one that boosts the charger. The whole thing is crazy. This country has gone crazy. You know, I said recently at a speech, I thought it was quite clever. So far, nobody's really mentioned it, because if I'm clever, they don't like talking about it. Although we've been getting quite good reviews. We did a good one last night, got a lot of good reviews. And the polls are the reviews, because we're leading by so much. But, you know, I said the other day, we're like April Fool's Day. Everything's the opposite. They want open borders so that people can flood our country. They come from insane asylums. They come from mental institutions. They come from prisons. They come from all sorts of places. We don't even know who they are. We don't even know what countries they're coming from. That's April Fools. Who wants an open border? We want people to come into our country. Rudy understands that better than anybody, but they have to come in legally. The job you did in New York was so amazing. You don't get enough credit for it. They want high, that's very impressive, Rudy, by the way. They want high interest rates. They want high taxes. They want to quadruple your taxes. Now, that's April Fool's. Who ever heard? You know, when I was growing up, every politician would say, we are going to lower your taxes. They say, we are going to raise your taxes. And they don't, you know, look, they also want no voter ID because they want to cheat on elections. They don't want same-day voting. They don't want paper ballots. They never want any of that stuff because they want to cheat on elections, right? It's April Fools. Who wants that? Who wants to cheat? Even 82% of Democrats want voter ID. They want voter ID. We want one-day elections. We want all paper ballots. We have to get back to it. You know, in France, I recently had an election, and they used to have mail-ins, and they gave it up because it was so corrupt. Because once it, you know, it goes through everything. Some people get 7, 8 ballots. But France gave it up. And they had an election, and they had 36 million people vote. At 10 o'clock, everybody knew who won. It was a one-day election. It was paper ballots. It was voter ID. They had a winner. They had a loser, and that was the end of it. So crazy. What's happening to our country? It's like April Fools, everybody. No voter ID, open borders. It's all crazy. High interest rates, high taxes. Within hours of my inauguration, I will cancel every Biden policy that is brutalizing Michigan auto workers. You know, it's amazing. When I was in the White House, I'd meet with a lot of the heads of the unions, and they loved me. I said, there's no way. We'd have lunch. I'd have 5 or 6 of them at a time, sometimes 1 or 2. And they loved me. I said, there's no way. And then they go and they announce that they're going to support this guy that doesn't even know where the hell he is. He has no idea. And I said, I can't understand it. But we get the votes because the people understand it. The people understand. But I'll roll back Biden's ridiculous CAFE standards, stop the assault on the internal combustion engine, which is what you do here. Unleash American energy and save tens of thousands of Michigan jobs from destruction because you are heading toward a fall like nobody's ever seen before. And that's with this crazy policy they have for all electric. Under Biden, we have record high trade deficits, also known, in my opinion, as losses. We lose a fortune to China, to Japan, to all these countries. I renegotiated many of the deals. The rest of them were under consideration. But we made new deals with South Korea, with Japan. We made an unbelievable trade deal with China. They buy $50 billion worth of our product that they weren't buying. They didn't want to buy anything. The number was supposed to be $15 billion. And I said to my people, did you say 50 billion or 15? They said, sir, we said 15. I said, make it 50. And we got it. And it was great for manufacturers and great for farmers. But now I understand under the Biden administration, they're not living up to their agreement. Why should they? They have the goods on Biden. You understand that, right? They have the goods. He's not going to do anything. For this reason, I will also pass landmark legislation to be known as the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act. So that if China or India or any country hits us with a 100, 200, or even 300% tax or tariff, the numbers are unbelievable, how unfair it is. Anything like that, we will immediately, on all American goods, we will immediately hit them with tariffs and taxes that are exactly the same. So if they charge us 100%, we charge them 100%. You know, it's funny, I spoke to a senator that's not really a senator, who's not really into business. He said, so explain this to me. You're saying that if, let's say, India, and they really do a very big number on us, like Modi very much, I love the Indian people, but boy, do they take advantage of us on trade. So he said, so if India charges us 100% for a motorcycle, Harley Davidson, they're building plants now in India because they can't get them in because the tax is so high. It's so high, the tariff is just a disaster. So he said, if India charges us 100, we charge them 100, right? Is that what you're saying? I go, that's what I'm saying. He goes, you got my vote. You got my vote. But there are senators that won't approve it, and there are people that won't approve it. I had one senator from Pennsylvania. He left. He couldn't have won for a dog catcher, frankly. He's gone. He was a disaster. To me, he was beautiful. I'd say, so listen, China's charging us 150% tax on something. Is it okay if I charge them 100? No, sir, that's not free trade. I said, well, but they're charging us, so let me ask you this. Could I charge 100? They're charging us 150. Senator, could I charge 100? No, sir. We want free and fair trade, sir. I said, this is not free and fair. This is, could I charge him 50? No, sir, you couldn't. Could I charge him 25 or even 10%? Like beggars. Could I be a beggar? She'd give us, you charge us 150, we're going to charge you 10%. I was just doing it just to find out. He said, no, sir, it's not free and fair trade. Well, he's out of office now, Tommy, because he was stupid. He was stupid. He was horrible. That guy was horrible. He fought me on every damn thing. I would not give him an endorsement. I wouldn't give him, you know, our endorsement goes to 98, 99%. Lisa got my endorsement, I can tell you that. 99%. When we endorse, close to 99% of the people that we endorse win. I wouldn't endorse him, and he decided to retire. I've decided to leave office now. No, these people, I don't know where the hell you find them, Tommy Tuberville. I don't know how you find them. Just out of curiosity, if China's charging us 100%, can we charge them 100%, Tommy Tuberville? Yes, we got one vote. That's why they love him in Alabama. But it's no wonder the swamp is getting truly desperate as they see us leading very big in the polls. I'm leading very, very big in the polls. In this week's just came out Big Village poll, we lead the field by 41 points. Very nice. 56 to 15 for DeSanctimonious. He's doing good. He's falling like a rock. People are getting to know him. They know he's got no personality. Got to have a little personality. Not much, but a little. And we're leading big. In a recent CBS poll, which does not like me, we have 61%, and the Republicans are down to 11 or 12 or something. And in the new Harvard-Harris poll, doesn't love me. We're up by 45 points, leading 45 points, and it's been really amazing. In New Hampshire, we have a 47% lead over DeSanctimonious. The reason I call him that is he was dead in the water, couldn't have gotten elected. He came begging for my endorsement. I gave him the endorsement. He won. Then they said, would you run against the president? He said, I have no comment. I said, that means he's running. This guy We get him elected. Then he says, yes, I'd run. I don't know. They say loyalty doesn't matter in this business. What do you think, Rudy? I think loyalty matters a lot. I think it matters a lot. But we're leading Biden by a lot. In that same Harvard-Harris poll, Trump leads Biden 45-39. All other Republican candidates are losing to Biden, which is hard to believe, to be honest with you. This young man right here sitting in the front is about 12 years old. He should be leading by 40 or 50 points. Anybody should be leading. It's horrible. Look, it was a rigged election. That's the only way they can win. These incredible poll numbers are one of the main reasons the Marxist left is weaponizing the criminal justice system to try and stop us. If I wasn't running, or if I was doing badly in the polls, all of this investigation bullshit would stop immediately. Stop immediately. And I did nothing wrong. It's under the Presidential Records Act. I did nothing wrong. Or the Clinton Sox case, which is just a reaffirmation of the Presidential Records Act. We did nothing. You know what the Clinton Sox case is? That's where Clinton, President Clinton, took out tapes and things of foreign leaders, very big deal, and he put them in his socks, and they found it in his sock drawer. So they call it the. And the judge, respected judge, ruled that he had the absolute right to have those things. And this was an affirmation. These were very, very big. That was a big deal at the time. The judge ruled in his favor. 2 weeks ago, Joe Biden ordered his top political opponent to be arrested. That's me. I never learned about being arrested at the Wharton School of Finance. They didn't have a class on arrest. We learned other things. We learned finance and things. We didn't learn about arrest. But arrested on fake and fabricated charges right in the middle of a presidential election in which Biden is losing by a lot. Can you imagine that? Sir, you're going to be arrested today. You're winning by 20 points. You're going to be arrested today. This is a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time, which began as I came down with our great future, then future First Lady, who people love. People love her. We came down the golden escalator in Trump Tower. Its primary purpose is a thing called election interference, but we will not let that happen. They did it in 2020. They're not doing it again. We're not going to allow it to happen. Every time the radical left, Democrats, Marxists, communists, and fascists indict me, I consider it a great badge of honor and a badge of courage. Consider it great. Essentially, I'm being indicted for you, and I believe the you is more than 200 million people that love our country. I believe that strongly. Never forget, our enemies want to stop us because we are the ones and the only ones who can stop them. We're the only ones that can stop them. They want to stop us. They'll do anything they can. You know, they're vicious. If they would apply the same genius to making our country great, we would have no problem. I probably wouldn't have even run, but they don't. They want to destroy our country. Nobody can understand it. Nobody can understand why. If these corrupt persecutions succeed, they will complete their takeover of this country, and they will destroy your way of life and the United States of America forever. It will be forever destroyed. It will never be able to come back from that. That's why this is the most important election we've ever had. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I had such a nice life before. I had the greatest life. But you know what? I would do it again. A lot of people say, would you do it again? I said, absolutely, because this country has such potential. We're going to make this country greater than ever before. Absolutely. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. I'm never going to let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. And I just happen to be standing in the way. But we're not going to let anything happen to you that's bad, and we've got to start with this election. It's coming up fast. Think of it, a little more than 6 months. We're having the primaries start in Iowa, go to New Hampshire. Now, they changed it. You know, they start differently. They wanted to change it. I think that's probably going to hurt them badly, but hopefully it's not going to make any difference because we're going to win this thing so big. You know, the way you stop the cheating is to win it so big that they can't cheat. They can't create that many ballots, that many fake ballots. That's the way you really stop it. That will make our elections fair again. Joe Biden is the most corrupt president in the history of our country, and there's no doubt about that. The Biden corruption scandal is 100 times bigger than Watergate. Yet the mainstream media doesn't even report the fact that Joe Biden has illegally taken millions and millions of dollars from China, Ukraine, and many other countries. Many other countries. And you can't read it. You see the story, and you know it's happening, and it's all over the internet, but you can't read anything about it in mainstream media. And you go to ABC, CBS, NBC, you'd go to the mainstream, the big ones, if they're big. I don't know who the hell watches them now, because they have no credibility. You know, they've lost credibility so badly. CNN, nobody's watching CNN anymore because it's fake news. Wasn't that a great term that we came up with years ago? Fake news, fake news. They are fake news. There's a lot of them back there. Hello. But Joe Biden is compromised. Can you believe that it was just announced? This is, to me, one of the hardest of all. That military installations are currently being built in Cuba, just 90 miles off our coast, and Biden isn't doing anything about it. He's not saying he can't, because they've been paying him off, and they know how they've been paying him off. They will reveal that, and that'll be the end of his presidency. I think even the fake news won't be able to cover that one up, but maybe they can. But he's basically said, okay. He's saying nothing. He said, okay. What that means for our great Cuban population in Miami, where we won incredibly. And by the way, I don't know if you know this or not, Tommy, but I got more than 1 million votes more in Florida than DeSanctimonious got. Nobody wants to talk about that. More than 1 million votes more. But what it means for our great Cuban population in Miami, Florida, and the rest of the United States is that they will never see Cuba again. It's gone. When China occupies Cuba, the Cuban Americans who love Cuba, they want to go back. They want to be there. They want to be with their loved ones. They want to be there. They're never going to be able to go back. We had it where they were ready to make a deal. It was going to be open. That's why I got the Bay of Pigs Award recently. They gave me the Bay of Pigs because nobody's done more for opening up Cuba to our great people. That whole thing was ending. And now China goes in. Now China goes in, and Biden doesn't even say anything about it. So I guess he's not going to do too well with the Miami vote, the Cuban vote, the Venezuelan vote. Unless they get back in which case I will inform China that they have 48 hours to get any military and spy equipment out of Cuba, or we will drop the hammer, and there will be tariffs and taxes unlike anything they've ever seen. And they paid hundreds of billions of dollars while I was president. That's why they didn't want me as president. Those tariffs are killing us, sir. I said, you've been killing us for 30 years. Biden wants to do nothing because he can't do it. Together in 4 incredible years under our administration, we delivered the largest tax cuts and regulatory cuts. Our regulations, I think it was bigger even and more important, Rudy, than the tax cuts. It created the greatest economy in history. We built the greatest economy in history. And a lot of it was the regulation cuts and the tax cuts. And those two things go hand in hand. We achieved energy energy independence and energy dominance was just around the corner. We had gasoline prices for your car of $1.87 a gallon. We had times when it was even lower than that. And now it goes up to 5 and 6 and 7. And it's going to start going up again. We filled up the strategic reserves, and they emptied it out so that they could keep the price of gasoline cheap before an election. That's supposed to be used for much more important things than that, like military and security. We created the most secure border in U.S. history, built nearly 500 miles of border wall, got Mexico to give us, free of charge, 28,000 soldiers. You know why he did that? I said, you have to give us soldiers while we're building the wall. No, we can't do that. And I really like the president of Mexico. He's a socialist, but that's all right. Can't have everything. But I do like him. But I said, you have to give us 28,000 soldiers. They thought I was crazy when I said that. And I also said, you have to give us remain in Mexico. Nobody comes into our country, they have to remain in Mexico. And Title 42, that's having to do with sickness, as you know. We just don't want sick people that are going to come in and infect our country. And catch and release, you have to end it. But I said, we need all these things. And the woman at the State Department said, sir, they'll never do this. I've been doing this for 25 years, sir. They will never do it. She was actually very good, but she was so used to being turned down. I said, oh, they'll do it, 100%, 100%. What do you mean 100%, sir? They're never going to do that. Why would they give us free soldiers? You'll see. So the top person in Mexico outside of the president, El Presidente, great guy. But the top person came in, he sat down. I said, here's what we need. We need 28,000 soldiers free of charge because you're letting all these people pour into our country and we're building the wall. And we need them immediately, free of charge. He laughed at me. Then I said, we need the other things that we just went over. We need no more catch and release. I'm not doing it. We're going to catch and we're going to release them into your country, not into our country. And we need stay in Mexico. I gave him a list of 10 different things, all of which are impossible. And he said, sir, you must be, why would we, we're not going to do that. I said, yes, you're 100%. I told him, 100% you're going to do it. No, we're not going to do it, sir. He said, here's what's happening. And I had right in front of me an executive order that if you don't do it, we're going to charge you 25% tariff and taxes on all of your cars and every other thing that you sell into the United States of America. You took the business away. Now you're going to pay a big tax. And I'm ready to sign it. And this was a Friday. I said, this goes into effect Monday morning at 9 o'clock. And I'm being nice by saying 9 because I was going to say, why didn't you make it 7? But they didn't do that. Goes into effect Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Sir, I'm sure you wouldn't do that. I said, no, 100% I'm going to do it. Sir, do you mind if I leave the room for a few minutes? I'd like to make a phone call. He came back about 5 minutes later. Sir, we would be honored to allow you to do all of the things. We would be honored. This would be a great honor for us. Oh, I had many of those things. We got everything. The woman at the State Department, she was good. But she was turned down. She said, I've been turned down for 20, 25 years for asking for that stuff, and you got everything. And I said, 100%, we're going to get everything. So they gave us 28,000 soldiers free. And you know what? If they didn't, we would have made a lot of money on the tariffs, because frankly, there should be tariffs. Because they took our business out of Michigan, they put it into Mexico, and then they sell cars to our country, just like you used to sell cars to our country. But they took 32% of our automobile manufacturing business out of our country. Most of it came from Michigan, right here, this wonderful place. And I said, you know what? We're going to make a fortune if you say no to me. But he came back within 5 minutes. But I've done that with many, many phone calls. I wish they could have all been taped and recorded. I had Macron call up. And our people came to me and said, you know, France wants to charge us a massive tax if you're an American company doing business in France. They want to charge us a very big tax. I said, they can't do that. So I gave it to Mnuchin and some people. I said, call up. Tell them we're not doing it. They called up. They came back a week later. They said, sir, they're doing it. It's already been passed by their so-called legislature. I said, no, they're not going to do it. Give it another couple of days and go back and try it. They came back. They said no. So I called up Emmanuel Macron, a nice guy, but he's a wise guy, but he's a nice man. but he's a wise guy. Hey, look, these people are all at the top of their game. Our guy wasn't at the top of his game 40 years ago, okay? But these people, Macron, and say what you want, President Xi, they said the fake news, is President Xi a smart man? I said, no, he's a brilliant man. He controls 1.4 billion people with an iron fist. How dare he say he's brilliant? You're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to say it. But I said to Macron, I said, let me call him. Emmanuel, how are you? It's nice to talk to you. Emmanuel, here's the story. I understand you're going to charge American business. Oh, yes, Donald. I am. I was going to charge American business, yes. We've been doing this for a long time. Yes, we have decided to charge American businesses a tax. The tax is like 25%. And I don't want that to happen. That's unfair. We don't charge them. I said, well, I don't want you to do it, Emmanuel. But, Donald, we have to. It's already been passed, and we will be signing legislation next week. I said, here's the story, Emmanuel. If you charge us that tax, I will charge you 100% taxes and tariffs on all wine and champagne coming into the United States. And that starts tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. I got this out. No, he said, you cannot do that. That is very unfair. Can you believe it? That's unfair. They can charge us with, this is the way, because they've been dealing with stupid people for 40 years. These deals are the stupidest deals. NAFTA is the stupidest deal I've ever seen. Everyone said there's no way he can get that terminated. And a new deal, I got it terminated from great people in the Senate and great people in the House. We got it terminated because you had to have it terminated in the House and the Senate. We got it terminated. I signed the termination and I replaced it with USMCA. But I said, no, Emmanuel, I'm sorry. He said, may I call you back? I said, you may. How long will it take you to call me back? Oh, it will be about 4 minutes later I get a call. He goes, Donald, we have decided that we will not put the tax on American companies. That was it. That was it. Let me give you the bad news. The bad news is now they're putting it on under the Biden administration. And I guarantee you Joe Biden's not calling up saying, Emmanuel, what are you doing? No, he wants to go to sleep and just relax. We appointed nearly 300 federal judges and 3 great Supreme Court justices. I rebuilt our United States military. We created Space Force, which is a big deal. First time in 78 years, Air Force was before. First time in 78 years since Air Force. Defeated ISIS, 100% of ISIS. And I brought our troops back home where they belong. I imposed the most powerful travel ban to keep radical Islamic terrorists out of our country. It took a lot of heat, remember that? And you know, if you think, I don't like to talk about it, but if you think for 4 years we didn't have a problem, did we, huh? But we have a lot of bad people coming into our country now. I was the first president in 70 years who didn't start a war. I didn't start a war. Everybody said, beautiful Hillary Clinton. You know, I don't call her crooked anymore, so I have a new name, beautiful. She's a beautiful person. Beautiful Hillary. She's a beautiful woman. She said, he is going to start a war. Listen to him, his personality. I said, no, my personality will stop a war. And I'm the only person that can say this. I will stop World War III, and we're very close to having World War III. But all of that was only the beginning. Here are some of the rather bold agenda items that I will immediately implement when we become the 47th President of the United States. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after I win the presidency, I will have the war between Russia and Ukraine settled. I'll do it in 24 hours. It's not tough to do. That's easy compared to a lot of things. To stop the Marxist prosecutors who release rapists and murderers all over our country while persecuting conservatives, including me, by the way, have you noticed? I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ and investigate every radical district attorney and Attorney General in America for their illegal, racist, and reverse enforcement of the law. Thank you. I will immediately terminate every open borders policy of the Biden administration. You can come in to our country, but you have to come in legally. We want you to come in, but you have to come in legally. You just take a look at other countries and what they're doing, but other countries are emptying out their prisons, insane asylums, mental institutions. They're dumping everyone, including many, many, many terrorists. The other day, they had 48 terrorists. They caught 48 terrorists coming in from the border, but that's hundreds and hundreds of these people are coming in. They're not being caught. Following the Eisenhower model, Dwight Eisenhower was very tough on the border, believe it or not. We will use all necessary state, local, federal, and military resources to carry out the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. Have no choice. I don't like saying it. We have no choice. Get the bad ones out early, very early. And you know who knows who they are? Our police forces. They know who they are, right, Rudy? They know everyone, every town. They know the good ones. They know the gang members. They know them by their first names. I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act, which most people have never heard of, to remove all known and suspected gang members, drug dealers, or cartel members from the United States, ending the scourge of illegal alien gang violence forever. And I will sign a day one executive order ending automatic citizenship for the children of illegal aliens. They come into our country illegally, they have a child. Congratulations, your child is now a citizen of the United States. To save our economy from Joe Biden's inflation catastrophe and total economic disaster, I will deliver tax cuts, energy price cuts, and interest rate cuts, the likes of which you have never seen before. You know, we were ready to do that, and then we got hit with the COVID as a gift from China. We were doing so well. We were making so much money with the oil and gas, with the drilling. And I was using that money, just like Saudi Arabia makes a fortune. We have more than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. We were doing numbers that nobody had ever seen before. We were ready to start taking those numbers, giving a tax reduction. I gave the biggest in history. I was going to give it even bigger to middle-income people. We were going to give it even bigger. We were going to do that. And then we were going to start paying down our $32 billion at the time national debt. We were going to make so much money, and then COVID came in, and we had to change a lot of plans because that was a disaster. A gift from China, another gift from China. But unlike Ron DeSanctimonious, who voted to gut Medicare and gut Social Security, and even voted to raise the retirement age to 70, which was a big raise. He wanted to do it. He voted 3 times to do that. He wanted to gut Social Security, and he was going to terminate or do very bad things to Medicare. And then he's supposed to get elected? You can't get elected when you do that because the people deserve that. They worked for that. We can't take that away. There are many other things we can do, including oil and gas, where we build up our numbers. There are many, many other things we can do. We're not going to play around with Social Security, and we're not going to play around with Medicare, Medicaid. I will always protect Medicare and Social Security for our great seniors. I will always protect them. I will immediately sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto the lives of our children. And here's something that's not even believable that we have to say this. Who would ever think? Only a sick country can think this way. I will keep men out of women's sports. imagine having to say that? You see these records, weightlifting records that stood for 18 years. 18 years, and now they're being broken by like 100 pounds. They used to put a little tiny, a quarter of an ounce and a quarter of an ounce on these barbells, and a young woman would get up, and she's a great champion, and she's got to lift that 212 pounds over her head. Her mother and father are there, her husband's there, they're so proud of her. They put a quarter of an ounce on each side, a little quarter, little thing, little. 18 years it stood. 18 years. And she got up, and she's so proud. Her parents are there, and she gets up. Mom, Dad, I can't do it. I can't do it. Then this guy comes along. Have you lifted before? No, I haven't, really. Well, you're going to have to lift this weight over your head. And he said, that's all right. I should be able to do that. He goes like this. Then he said, how about adding 100 pounds to it? This is a disgrace to women, what's happening. Disgrace. The other one I tell, and I tell it very strongly, the swimmers' records are being decimated. But the young woman who was standing there, she was going to break that record. It stood for 12 years. And she was a great athlete, great swimmer. She was going to break it. She looks down. She sees the same people that she's been swimming against for 10 years. You know, they tend to be all the cream comes to the top. She looks over. She sees the 4 people on her left. She looks over. She sees 5 people. And then she looks up. Whoa, that guy's big. Whoa. Man, I never saw her before. And the gun goes off. And this young lady was badly injured, as you know, because I've told this before. She suffered from wind burn because this guy went by her so fast that the wind was devastating. Hopefully she'll be recovered. This guy looked like a slightly smaller version of Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain. Biggest wingspan she'd ever seen. No, we can't do that. This is crazy. And it's so demeaning to women and women's sports. They've come so far. It's so demeaning. Who would think we even have to talk about that? And who would think that we have to talk about the fact that I will sign a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states? Who would think that? Now, who would think that? Child sexual mutilation? Can you imagine 10 or 15 years ago? You don't have to say that. Nobody would think child sexual mutilation. We're going to stop it. It's unbelievable. And there are people that don't want you to stop it. That's the more incredible part. There's a lobby out there that's powerful as hell. I mean, they're trying to destroy our country. In addition, I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate from kindergarten all the way through college. As I announced this month, to continue my long record of standing up to Big Pharma, I will establish a special presidential commission, which I had before we were doing so well. Big Pharma hated me. You know how you can tell? Take a look at how much money they gave me and take a look at how much money they gave to the Democrats. They hated me. And the FDA hated me because nobody ever pushed the FDA like I did. I said, why do you have to wait 7 years, 8 years to get something that's working really well? Why do you have to wait? Very bureaucratic. They hated me. A special presidential commission to investigate what is causing the decades-long increase in childhood diseases, autoimmune disorders, autism, obesity, infertility, and other chronic health problems. Why is this happening at this level? Just as I did 4 years, for 4 years I did this, I will fully uphold the Second Amendment. I will uphold the Second Amendment. I've had support from every gun group. And that hasn't been that easy. That hasn't been that easy. There's a big lobby against, but I held so strong. Sometimes it wasn't the easiest thing. I will fully uphold and protect your Second Amendment. I will defend innocent life. Nobody did what I've done for innocent life. Nobody even came close. I will bring back free speech in America, and that is what we must do to restore our country to greatness. The USA is a mess. It's a total mess. Our economy is crashing. Inflation is out of control. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea have formed together in a menacing and destructive coalition. Not even believable that Russia and China would be together. They're natural enemies because of their land. They're natural. Joe Biden and Obama pushed them together. No reason for it. Amazing that it happened, but now they're together, and it is menacing. Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be the greatest defeat that we've had in 200 years. If that happens, we become a complete third world nation. And if you look at our airports today and you look at all of the problems we have at the border and with our elections, we are indeed a third world nation. But I won't let these things happen with me, not even a chance. Just like Russia, as I said, would never, ever have even thought about going into Ukraine. And I talked about Putin. He understood the consequences, and China would not have even given a thought about raiding Taiwan, and that's right now all they think about. If you took the 5 worst presidents in the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction to our country as Joe Biden and the Biden administration have done. They wouldn't have. We are a failing nation. We are a nation in decline. And now these radical left lunatics want to interfere with our elections by using law enforcement. It's totally corrupt, and we will never let it happen. This is the final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. And we will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media, and we will defeat crooked Joe Biden. We will liberate America from these villains once and for all. The great silent majority is rising like never before. And under our leadership, the forgotten man and woman will be forgotten no longer. We will make sure that our great, wonderful, beautiful, forgotten men and women will not be forgotten any longer. With your help, with your love, and your vote, we will win Michigan, and we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Michigan, and God bless America. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you.
From the former president of the United States, who said he'll be the 47th president of the United States. Mentioned that a couple of times. Touching on a lot of things we expected to touch on. Open borders, of course. The economy. Union support. He says he may not get the union endorsement, but he gets the union voters, which happens to be true. That he has to focus on CAFE standards. Those are fuel economy standards for cars, especially important in Michigan. He said he'll stop the attacks on the internal combustion engine in cars here in the United States and stop this ridiculous push towards EVs. Stop the attacks on energy is the takeaway from that. Stop the attacks on energy here in the United States. Never take away your freedom. He's going to get tough with China. Ending a men versus women in sports. He just talked about that just moments ago towards the end of his speech. And always defending free speech. He said it's our final battle for the United States. He says the final battle for the United States, and a lot of people believe that. A lot of you believe this is the final battle to save the republic created just shy of 250 years ago. So a high-energy speech with a lot going on. David Zier on the ground in Oakland County, Michigan, there where the Lincoln Day dinner was held and Donald Trump was in attendance. David Zier standing by now. David, what's your takeaway?
Well, I think he made it clear that he's helped Michigan more than any president in history. And, you know, this whole region here, you know, between Iowa and the farmers and the Midwest, I think that he really cares about the American worker. And he's saying Biden has cost the American worker $200 billion with the auto problems and manufacturing going on here. The crowd was very rowdy here. They were really fired up for Donald Trump. You know, he really captivates and has great timing. So I think it's clear that he's still the front runner. We'll see where he goes going forward. And it's really important, you know, for Iowa and South Carolina for him to solidify victories there first. I had Rudy Giuliani coming over, but I don't know if he's going to make it up here in time. He was trying to make his way over from the front, but it's very crowded here. But if he shows up in the next minute or so, maybe we can bring him on. But I think it was another speech where Trump saying the attacks on him are the attacks on the American public, and he's standing in the way, and they want to take him out.
Yeah. A lot of comments from Rudy Giuliani and referencing other issues, of course, in Michigan, energy. And he talked about the Goshen plant, which is a hot-button issue here in Michigan. Goshen plant near Big Rapids, where the Chinese Communist Party is backing an energy company to come in and build battery components for the electric vehicle push that is on from the Biden administration, for which we're not prepared for as far as infrastructure goes or the grid goes. So that was something he addressed. And this is going on all over the country. We've seen pushback on purchases of land in North Dakota, South Dakota, Florida, and Michigan as well, David. It's a pretty important topic. And big cheers toward the end that I just mentioned about the transgender issues and child mutilation surgeries and men competing against women in weightlifting and so forth that he talked about. That also brought the crowd to its feet.
Well, I think the transgender issue is huge, and he says that he's not going to fund any schools that participate in this. And he said, 15 years ago, did anyone ever think that we were going to have mutilation of our children in our hospitals? And I've been covering this extensively on RAV. People are speaking out. School boards are rising up. Chino School Board is fighting the California Department of Education, who does not want the parents to know if a kid has a mental health issue or is transgender or gay. And, these parent groups are fighting up. And I just was talking earlier to the founder of Moms for America here. 2 nights ago, I was with Tiffany Justice, who are having their summit from Moms for Liberty in Philadelphia. They are gaining steam, but I don't know, is there more of them than us? We have to see where this goes, because the moms are the only ones really standing in the way of America being taken over and the dynamic change forever. And Reagan said we're only one generation away from losing it all. And is this the generation that is suffering under this insanity?
Sure. Now, one of the questions, David, that people, opponents of Donald Trump, critics of Donald Trump, say, you can't get suburban women back. I don't know if that's true or not. I certainly see the latest polling that shows Donald Trump leading Joe Biden by 4, 5, 6 points. In numerous polls, Joe Biden is at the worst point as far as approval rating goes of any president in modern history. So in a matchup, if there is a rematch between the 45th president and the 46th president of the United States, right now it looks to favor Donald Trump, because Joe Biden, we saw him fall down at the Air Force event. We've seen him fall on Air Force One. We've seen him fall on a stationary bicycle. These are all concerns. We've seen Joe Biden confused, not knowing which way to leave the stage when he gets done with speeches. We hear him say odd things and mumble odd things and appear to be led around by people. I mean, this is not something that Democrats don't see. They can see the same things that you and I see, and the whole country sees, and for that matter, the whole world sees. So in a rematch right now, Donald Trump seems to be the guy who's probably going to pull this off. David, I'll give you a last comment here, because I don't think Rudy's going to make it.
Well, Trump's leading in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. But there's a battle going on in these states, especially in South Carolina. They're split like 60-40 in favor of Trump, like the politicians, right? And the establishment's trying to get rid of him. And you got Nikki Haley and Tim Scott down there, too. So Trump's trying to solidify that with rallies in South Carolina, especially in the western part of the state, near Clemson University and Pickens next week, where it's more conservative than, say, Charleston, right? So this is going to be a big battle. I think it's Trump's to lose the nomination right now. What will happen next year? I think there's a long way to go, but only 7 months to the primary.
Yeah, we're almost there. David Zier, live in Oakland County, Michigan. David, thank you for all your efforts tonight. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you, sir. All right, well, I'm going to take a moment here and just say thank you to the good people at Birch Gold who were the sponsor of this event. Let it be brought to you today. With Joe Biden in the Oval Office, we've seen an inflation surge. Deficit spending and the national debt have hit record highs. It's directly because of these challenges that President Trump said tonight, just moments ago, and I quote, "Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat in 200 years. Now, in a direct affront to the dollar's status as global reserve currency, the BRICS group of nations led by China and Russia and South Africa, rumored to be just 2 months away from launching its own currency, which is pretty remarkable. With the dollar seemingly on its last legs, it's more important than ever to take a hard look at moving some of your savings into gold, something you can count on. If you can own gold in a tax-sheltered retirement account with the help of Birch Gold Group, that's right, Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. And the best part, you don't pay a penny out of pocket. To get started, Birch Gold is giving away a free information kit on gold so you can learn everything you need to know, a free information kit on gold. All you need to do, text the word America to 989898. Now think about this. When currencies fail, gold is a safe haven. How much more time does the dollar have, especially with BRICS looming ominously overhead? Protect your savings with gold now. Again, Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied customers. Text America to the number 989898. Get your free information kit on gold. That's America to 989898. And remember what the president said here, the former president, that is. It would be our greatest defeat ever if we lose our reserve currency status. Just a few years ago, 70% of the world used the American dollar as reserve currency. Now it's 40%. Not a good place to be. So we thank you again, Birch Gold, for being the sponsor of this very special live event from Oakland County, Michigan. Donald Trump honored as the Man of the Decade for the second time. First time in 2013, second time today. Begin your day tomorrow here on Real America's Voice with me. The Steve Gruber Show will kick off at 6 a.m. Eastern live right here. We'll have a complete wrap-up of this event, plus the latest in the Joe Biden and Hunter Biden scandals. Don't miss a minute of it. The Steve Gruber Show will start your day on Real America's Voice tomorrow morning. I'll see you then.